1. Thunderbird. The Thunderbird is a large and powerful bird. In fact, it was said to be so large that it could pluck a whale from the sea as easily as an eagle catching salmon in its talons. To the native cultures of the Pacific Northwest and the Great Plains, the Thunderbird was a mythical creature that embodied strength and power. As the name implies, Thunderbirds were associated with thunderstorms. Its huge wings made the sound of thunder when they flapped, and according to some stories, it was said that it could even shoot lightning with its eyes. To the peoples of the Great Plains, their presence was a harbinger of rain, which could be a welcome sight or a destructive force, depending on the conditions. In some cultures, Thunderbirds go to war with other forces of nature. For the Arapaho, Thunderbird is the bird of summer who challenges White Owl Woman, the bird of winter, to see who has the greater powers. The Thunderbird represented the power of nature and the force of storms, but for the most part it was not a fearsome or malevolent creature. This mythical creature was revered as sacred. The tribes of the Pacific Northwest crowned their totem poles with carved images of Thunderbirds. 2. Yenaldlushi. The Navajo have myths and stories about a terrifying creature known as a Skinwalker, or Yenaldlushi. Skinwalker is a mythical entity that has the ability to transform into any animal or human it desires. Many of the legends claim that Skinwalker can only shapeshift if he uses the skin of the creature he wants to copy, but there are other stories that claim that they can also use human hair or nail clippings to shapeshift. Since the Navajo people believe that skinwalkers require animal pelts to make their transformation, it is considered taboo to have wolf, bear, and puma pelts in their culture, making it difficult for skinwalkers to steal skins and transform into these ferocious animals. The only skins the Navajo wear are sheep and deer skins. It's not nearly as scary for Skinwalker to turn into a sheep as it is to turn into a bear in his culture. The stories surrounding Yenaldlushi are pretty twisted. They're always up to wicked mischief and breaking Navajo taboos. They practice cannibalism, sitting in circles and eating piles or baskets full of human flesh. Traditionally, the intent of skinwalkers appears to be to harm humans. These creatures are fast and agile. Their agility and ability to shapeshift make them impossible to capture. They leave no traces, so they cannot be traced. According to Navajo stories, the only way to kill them is to dip a bullet into white ash and shoot the creature with it. 3. The Wendigo. In northern Algonquian traditions, the Wendigo was the spirit of winter, which could transform a man or woman into a cannibal with a heart of ice. The Wendigo, or Wendigo, Wetiko, and other names, a mythical creature of various Algonquian tribes, and the Wachuj, a similar legend of the Athabascan tribes of northwestern Canada, were magical creatures with a taste for human flesh. The Wendigo and the Wachuj can best be compared to today's modern zombies. They are described as ghostly emaciated, with gray skin, sunken eyes, and a shuffling gait. They reek of death and look like walking corpses. The Wachuj differs slightly from the Wendigo in that, according to Athabascan stories, the creature formed from glacial ice and came to life. His heart is frozen and therefore numb. The Wendigo, on the other hand, was once a human who was turned into a beast through cannibalism.
If you read enough of it, over years you become this less than human thing. You're always hungry.
There are also Wetiko, similar cannibalistic creatures found in the tribal cultures of northern Canada. These guys can be human or non-human, and whatever their powers are, it usually involves cannibalism to some degree. When a Wendigo or Wachuji feeds on one of its victims, that victim becomes one of them. Supposedly, the creature's desire for human flesh is so strong that they are almost insatiable. They are constantly prowling the forests where they live, looking for unfortunate humans to devour. In this way, the stories of Wendigo and Wachuj served as tales warning people not to wander the forest alone. According to some anthropologists, they may also have been used as a warning against cannibalism during the harsh winter months. 4. Endam Kino Wet. Native American cultures, like communities around the world, include stories of half-human, half-fish beasts. The Endam Kino Wet is the Algonquian version of the mermaid myth. Or rather, it's a merman. All the myths and legends of this mythical creature describe this being as a man who likes pretty young women. The Endam Kino Wet, so the stories go, lurks in lakes, rivers, and streams, and harasses young girls and girls when they take off their clothes to bathe. Sometimes he doesn't even bother the women. He just watches a woman swim naked and wash herself. In other legends, the creature takes its voyeurism a step too far by swimming unseen below the surface to disturb an unsuspecting bather. The merman doesn't try to kill anyone, but he certainly lived up to his reputation as the perverted merman. 5. Atasa. The Endam Kino Wet was not unique in North American mythology. Other mythical creatures also stalked young women, according to Native American stories. One of these more fearsome creatures was Atasa, a cannibalistic demon described by the Zuni people of the Southwest as huge and demon-like. Much larger than a normal human, the Atasa is covered in thick, knobby fur and long gray hair. He is muscular and scaly with bulging red eyes. Numerous tales in Zuni oral tradition describe Atasa kidnapping and cannibalizing young women. However, as threatening as Atasa was, most stories about this cannibalistic demon end with the creature's defeat. In one story, for example, Atasa lured a pair of beautiful young women into his cave. He tried to trick the young maidens into trying the soup he had been cooking, soup made from human children he had kidnapped. When that didn't work, he tried to convince the girls to style his silver hair. In this story, the two girls were saved by the Zuni god of war who killed the demon and rescued the maidens. 6. Nimeragar. Various Native American tribes include stories of races of little people called Tehihan, Nimeragar, and Pukwudgies. According to legends, these were not cute, cheerful, Disney-style dwarfs. Instead, they were strong, fierce, and great warriors. In some myths, the little people were magical forest gnomes, while in others they were a fearsome enemy. The Tehihan are said to have made their homes on the plains of Wyoming and Colorado, where they could take advantage of the Native Americans who also lived there. In many stories, the Nimeragar are an evil group living in Wind River and in the mountains of Wyoming. The Nimeragar, whose name means people eaters, lived in the Pedro Mountains near the Wind River in Wyoming. Both sets of little people were described as child-sized, incredibly aggressive and cannibalistic. Dwarves would kidnap and eat children, slaughter cattle, and attack adult warriors with ease. They were just as brutal to their own kind. As the stories go, the Nimeragar practiced a gruesome form of euthanasia by pounding the skulls of their own members who had become injured, sickened, or too old to be useful. Almost all of the myths surrounding these ferocious dwarfs conclude with accounts of how Native American tribes came together to fight an ancient battle against the Tehihan. The little people were soundly defeated, and the entire race exterminated. 7. Ogopoga. The Loch Ness Monster gets all the attention, but according to Native American myths and folklore, there are also rare and unidentified sea serpents that live in some of North America's largest lakes. Ogopoga in British Columbia and Flathead in Montana are two such creatures. The depths of Okanagan Lake in British Columbia are said to be home to a giant sea serpent-like monster measuring over 40 feet in length. Indigenous people in the region have long told stories about the creature, which they have named Ogopoga, or water demon. According to tradition, the beast demands a blood sacrifice before allowing anyone to cross the lake. Similarly, Flathead Lake, just across the international border in Montana, supposedly also has the same type of sea monster. Local indigenous groups believed that the lake monster could cause a terrible storm on Okanagan Lake and capsize boats unless a sacrifice was offered to it. To ensure safe passage, they carried a chicken, rabbit, or other small animal with them. They threw the poor chicken into the water to drown, thus appeasing the sea monster. 8. PIAA Bird. The PIAA bird was a mythical creature that supposedly lived on the steep cliffs along the Mississippi River, according to Native American myths. The PIAA was quite different from the Thunderbird. It was depicted as a flying dragon in ancient paintings dating back to 1200 CE. In 1673, Father Jacques Marquette wrote about the PIAA bird in the journal he kept while traveling in the area. In it, he claimed the creature was as large as cattle, with blood-red eyes and antlers on its head. The body was covered in scales, but had a human face. It also had a long, thin, snake-like tail. According to legends, the PIAA bird ate human flesh, but not fresh meat. Rather, it went around when Native American warriors fought against enemy tribes. When the fighting was over, the PIAA bird swooped down to dine on the bodies of fallen warriors. 9. Kachituashku. The Penobscot Indians of the East Coast told stories of a giant, menacing, mythical creature called the Kachituashku, or stiff-footed bear. According to folklore, the monster was huge and crudely shaped like a bear, but with a much larger head and thick, inflexible legs. Legends surrounding the Kachituashku state that it stalked, killed, and devoured humans. Anthropologists researching the legends of the Penobscot people noted that depictions of Kachituashku resembled African elephants, which Native Americans would never have seen. That led to the theory that Native Americans discovered the skeletal remains of a prehistoric mastodon. Not knowing what the remains were, the people of Penobscot developed myths around the creature and its origins. 10. Bakwas. The Bakwas was a ghostly creature that went back and forth between the human world and the ghost world. He is the wild man of the forest, the keeper of drowned souls, and children are taught to mistrust him. Captured by Bakwas are condemned to eternal hunger, misery, wandering, and evil. If the Bakwas came across a human lost in the forest, they offered him some food, but it wasn't normal food. It was ghost food. If the human ate it, he or she would also transform into a Bakwas. 11. Yak Quaak. Yak Quaak were described as gigantic, monstrous beasts in Lenape, Mohican, and Shawnee mythology. Yak Quaak, the mastodon, was one of those beasts, placed on Earth to be useful to man. But the great, monstrous beast was ferocious, powerful, and invincible. Its skin was so strong and thick that the sharpest spears and arrows could hardly penetrate it. The creator told the Lenape that they would take part in this fight, and whether they should kill the Yak Quaak. The legendary Great Bear also came to help, and was badly wounded in this battle, said to have taken place in the Ohio River Valley, west of the Allegheny Mountains. During the battle, Kishalamakank, the creator, came and sat on a flat rock on top of the Allegheny Mountains to watch. He came a great number of the Yak Quaak giants. The battle was fierce, and the slaughter was terrible. The mastodons were winning, and the Ohio River Valley was covered in the blood of fighting animals. But slowly the battlefield became one great quagmire, and many of the Yak Quaak, due to their great weight, sank into the mud and drowned. Some modern Lenape storytellers describe the Yak Quaak as either a mammoth or a mastodon, although past recorded stories more often referred to it as a type of bear. 12. Mishipeshu. Mishipeshu, or underwater panther, is a powerful mythological creature, something of a cross between a puma and a dragon. Mishipeshu is a dangerous monster that lives in deep water and causes men and women to drown. Legends of some tribes describe Mishipeshu as the size of a royal lynx or puma, while in others the beast is huge. Mishipeshu has a very long prehensile tail that is often said to be made of copper. Details of the monster vary from community to community, but in many stories, water panthers are described as furry with deer horns or antlers, and a sharp, saw-toothed back. There is also a Cree version of the creature. 13. Wampus Cat. The Wampus Cat, or Cherokee Death Cat, is a feline creature in American folklore that can be depicted as scary or comical, depending on the region. The Wampus Cat varies greatly in appearance, but is always feline in nature. It is usually depicted similar to a cougar or mountain lion with yellow or light brown fur, has yellow eyes, and often has 6 legs instead of 4. In Cherokee mythology, the monster is the feline incarnation of a bystander cursed by tribal elders as punishment for hiding under the skin of a large wild cat to witness a sacred ceremony. The Wampus Cat has been associated in various southeastern tribal beliefs as a shapeshifter. When one was sighted, active townspeople went on curfews and armed themselves against the creature. Although the dead cattle and sightings can be attributed to early coyote or jaguarundi intrusions, the cattle deaths were attributed to the Wampus Cat. 14. Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil is a legendary beast that is said to inhabit the area known as the Pine Barrens of southern New Jersey, located in the United States. He is commonly seen as a kangaroo-like creature with goat-headed horns, leathery wings that resemble those of a bat, small arms with clawed hands, and cloven hooves, along with a forked tail. Strictly speaking, it is not clear if the Jersey Devil falls into the category of mythological creatures or modern urban legends. While there are many recounted origins for the Jersey Devil, the earliest legends can be traced back to Native American folklore. The Lenni Lenape tribes referred to the area around barren pines as Popuasing, meaning place of the dragon. Swedish explorers later called it Drake Matar, Drake translating to dragon and Matar meaning arm of the sea. One of the beast's many origins can be traced back to the Leeds family who lived in a New Jersey town consisting of Mr. and Mrs. Leeds and their 12 children. Mrs. Leeds became pregnant with her 13th, and many believe that she was cursed to give birth to a demon. According to the popular version of the legend, the newborn baby was malformed and hideous, killing the rest of the family and then escaping into the woods. 15. Jackalope. The jackalope is a mythical animal hybrid from North American folklore. The animals are described as a jackrabbit with antelope horns, or, more commonly, deer antlers. The legends of the horned rabbits go back to the Huichol myth, where they were described as mysterious creatures that gave the deer their horns. The creation of the jackalope is attributed to Douglas Herrick, Wyoming. It is believed that after returning from a successful rabbit hunt, he went into a taxidermy shop and placed the carcasses next to a pair of antlers, giving him the idea of creating a fake rabbit head out of deer antlers, which sold for $10. But the idea of a horned rabbit got out of hand, becoming a popular urban legend and an example of a fearsome creature, where they were described as virile but hostile creatures that could mimic human voices and sing campfire songs. Legend had it that the only way to calm an angry jackalope was to offer it whiskey to drink. Research suggests that at least some of the horned hairtails were inspired by sightings of rabbits infected with Shope papillomavirus. 16. Grafton's Monster. The Grafton Monster, also known as the Grafton Beast, is a large humanoid cryptid said to lurk in the woods outside the town of Grafton, West Virginia, a former railroad boomtown located in the United States. The monster is claimed to be a large bipedal humanoid creature with no visible head and covered in slippery white skin like a seal. However, it is not clear if he is actually headless or if his head is simply located near his chest. Number 1. Typhon. Typhon was known as the father of all monsters. He was born from Gaia, Earth, and Tartarus, the depths of hell. He was said to have been the fiercest creature to ever roam the earth. Typhon was huge. It was said that when he stood up, his head brushed against the stars. The lower half of his body consisted of 2 coiled viper tails that constantly hissed. Instead of fingers, several dragon heads emerged from his hands. It was said that he had wings that, when extended, could block out the sun. Fire flashed in his eyes, striking fear into the heart of any living creature, even mighty Olympians. Typhon was so powerful that the only conceivable opponent to challenge him was Zeus himself. While the other Olympians ran in fear, Zeus stood his ground against the monstrous being. A great battle between Typhon and Zeus ensued, causing countless earthquakes and tsunamis. The war between Typhon and Zeus was so powerful that it threatened to split the planet in 2. Zeus would triumph over Typhon. By shooting 100 well-aimed bolts at the monster's head, Typhon was hurled into the depths of Tartarus, where he was sealed forever. However, this monster's anger could not be contained. While he was trapped underground, he would occasionally experience fits of rage. His fury would manifest in the form of volcanic eruptions, and in this way, Typhon continues to terrorize humanity from his earthly prison. Number 2. Echidna, the mother of monsters. Echidna was half a winged woman with glowing eyes and half a huge, scaly serpent. She had the face of a seductive woman and the body of a reptile. She was immortal, and she used to drag her victims into earth-shattered pits, where she liked to devour them alive. She lived in a cave, deep in the earth. In Greek mythology, Echidna gave birth to many famous monsters that we find in Greek myths. As mentioned above, her partner was the monster Typhon. After her defeat by the Olympians and banishment by Typhon, Echidna and her offspring lived to challenge future heroes. Number 3. The Gorgens. The Gorgens were 3 mortal sisters whose hair was made of live, venomous snakes and could turn anyone to stone just by looking into their eyes. Famous sisters were Stheno, Urieli, and Medusa. Medusa is definitely the most famous and notorious among her kind. Medusa remains a popular monster from ancient mythology. Interpretations of Medusa differ. Some accounts describe how Medusa was born from the archaic marine deity, Ceto. In this version of the tale, Medusa is born with a hideous face and a serpentine tail where her legs should be. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, Medusa is said to have once been a beautiful maiden who was transformed into a hideous monster after being raped in the temple of Athena by the sea god Poseidon. The only aspect of Medusa that remains constant through various legends is her hair, which is said to have been composed of writhing, venomous snakes. Medusa confronts the hero Perseus, who was asked by her stepfather to retrieve the monster's head. Using a mirrored shield given to him by Athena, Perseus saw Medusa's reflection so as not to look directly at the monster. Perseus kills Medusa and cuts off her head. Perseus would use Medusa's head as a weapon against enemies, until he finally presented it to Athena, who placed it on the front of her shield. Number 4. Mermaids, the dangerous and beautiful creatures of Greek mythology. They were often depicted as femme fatales who lured nearby sailors with their enchanting voices to shipwreck on the rocky shore of their island. They used their singing to lure sailors passing through their island and kill them. They were considered the daughters of the river god Achelous. Roman writers associated sirens more closely with the sea, as daughters of Phorcys. Mermaids are found in many Greek stories, particularly Homer's Odyssey. The great hero Ulysses, cunning as he was, sealed the ears of his sailors with wax and tied himself to the mast of his ship to enjoy the beautiful song of the sirens without being tempted to follow the seductive sirens. Number 5. Sila. According to Greek mythology, Sila was the daughter of Phorcys and Ketos, once a beautiful nymph longed for by the god Poseidon. The jealous Aphrodite, partner of Poseidon, turned her into a monster, poisoning her bathwater. She had a fish body, a female upper torso, and dog heads that protruded from her neck. She was chasing the rocks of a narrow strait in front of the whirlpool of another terrible monster, Caribdis, which we will see later. In Odyssey, Odysseus's ship passes through the strait after losing 6 of his men to being eaten alive by the monster. Number 6. Charybdis. Charybdis is another scary female monster in Greek mythology. She lived opposite Sila on the Asian shore of the Bosphorus, a narrow natural strait and continental boundary between Europe and Asia. Charybdis looked like a huge whirlpool, and at the bottom of it, its monstrous mouth with huge, sharp teeth was waiting to devour any ship and sailors on it. Like Sila, Charybdis is also involved in the myths of Odysseus and the Argonauts, who crossed these straits with some losses. Charybdis was once a beautiful nymph daughter of Poseidon and Gaia. According to myth, she flooded much of the earth to expand her father's kingdom and return with him. This angered his uncle Zeus, who turned her into a monster and banished her to the sea. Charybdis became one of the most fearsome sea monsters. She used to swallow large amounts of water a day, creating whirlpools and devouring the sailors. Number 7. Empusa. Unlike the other creatures on this list, the Empusa is perhaps little known and does not appear in any traditional epics or folk legends. However, her terrifying appearance and her terrifying tendency to feast on blood and human flesh more than warrant her place on our list. The Empusa is often depicted as a beautiful woman who transforms into a creature with sharp teeth, flaming hair, and bat-like wings. Empusa was said to be a demigoddess under the control of the goddess Hecate, a being often associated with crossroads and driveways. The Empusa often seduced young people traveling alone. Once the unsuspecting youth was fast asleep, the creature would shift into her hideous form and devour the boy's flesh and drink his blood for his sustenance. The Empusa is probably best known for her appearance in Aristophanes' The Frogs, where she terrorizes the god Dionysus while traveling to the underworld. Number 8. Harpies. The Harpies were anthropomorphic monsters in Greek mythology, with the body of a bird and the head of a woman. They nailed the souls of the people and handed over lawbreakers to the Erinyes or Furies, the 3 goddesses of revenge and retribution who punished men for crimes against the natural order. When a person suddenly disappeared from Earth, it was said that they had been taken by Harpies to the underworld, the kingdom of Hades, and the dead. They were punishment agents who kidnapped people and tortured them on their way to the underworld. They were vicious, cruel, and violent. Number 9. Lamia. Lamia was a beautiful queen who ruled Libya. She fell to Hera's disadvantage because of her relationship with Zeus. The thunder god loved her because she was beautiful and had children with her who were killed by Hera. Due to her sadness and madness, Lamia transformed into a child-eating monster. Since then, she snatches the children of other mothers out of envy. Number 10. Sphinx. The Sphinx, a monster said to have the body of a lion, the head of a woman, and the wings of an eagle. It is a treacherous and ruthless monster that kills and eats those who cannot answer its riddle. This Sphinx would stop passers-by in the Greek city of Thebes and ask them to answer her riddle, otherwise she would eat them. The Sphinx is perhaps best known for its role in the Oedipus legend. The story goes that while Oedipus was traveling on the road to Thebes, he was confronted by the mysterious creature. The Sphinx blocks Oedipus's path and confronts him with a riddle. Although the exact riddle is not mentioned in ancient Greek legend, the popular version of the story tells that the Sphinx poses the following riddle to the young traveler. Who is the being, the only being among all the inhabitants of the earth, waters and air, which has a only nature? But it has 4 feet, 2 feet, and 3 feet, and it is weaker the more feet it has. Oedipus correctly answers the riddle. The man, who crawls on all 4s as a child, on 2 as an adult, and with the help of a cane on 3 legs during the twilight of his life. Having been outplayed at her own game, the Sphinx throws herself off a high cliff. In some versions, the Sphinx devours itself in anger and frustration. If Oedipus had not answered the riddle correctly, he would have been strangled and eaten by the creature, which had been the fate of so many travelers before him. Number 11. Manticore. The manticore is very similar to its sister monster, the Sphinx. He has a human head, a lion's body and wings, bat wings instead of eagle wings, but still, what it lacks in puzzles, it makes up for with a scorpion tail that can shoot poisonous spikes at people, just like a boss in some kind of ancient Greek video game. The scariest thing is that Manticore had 3 rows of teeth in its human mouth, which frankly disturbs me even when it comes to narrating. If this creature's also creep you out, give me a like and write me in the comments. It's a great help to me. Number 12. Giants. The giants were beings of enormous size. According to Greek mythology, they were human-like but tall in stature and irresistible in strength. Their bodies were scaly and ended in a lizard tail. They had thick hair and a long beard. Although they were of divine origin, they were mortal. Following other stories, the giants were immortal as long as they walked on the land where they were born. They are considered to have superhuman powers, enormous size, and long life, while on the contrary, they lack ethics and imagination. A famous giant was Argus, who served as Hera's guard. Number 13. Chimera. The chimera was a ferocious, fire-breathing monstrosity possessing the body and head of a lion with the head of a goat protruding from its back and a serpent for a tail. The brief description of the chimera in the text of the Iliad is the earliest surviving record of the creature. Traditionally, the chimera is considered to be a woman, and she is said to have given birth to the Sphinx and the Nimian Lion. The monster was feared and believed to be a harbinger of storms, shipwrecks, and other natural disasters. The chimera is best known for her role in the legend of Bellerophon, a hero born in the city of Corinth. King Lobates of Lycia would order Bellerophon to kill the monster to atone for his past sins. Bellerophon, knowing that he would need help for such a task, prayed and then slept in Athena's temple. Upon awakening, he saw the goddess in front of him, leading the mythical horse Pegasus, who possessed the ability to fly. With Pegasus saddled, Bellerophon flew to the chimera's lair in Lycia. Knowing that the creature was fierce and would not be easily defeated, Bellerophon devised a plan. He tied a large piece of lead to the end of his spear. Mounted on Pegasus, he flew towards the monster. Just as the chimera opened its mouth to burn the hero with fire, Bellerophon plunged lead into the creature's mouth. The chimera's fiery breath melted the lead, causing the creature to suffocate to death. Number 14. Lernaean Hydra. The Lernaean Hydra was another daughter of Typhon and Echidna, a hideous sea monster with serpentine features and many serpentine heads. A snake-like aquatic monster with reptilian features. A creature whose poison was so dangerous that even the breath exhaled by the Hydra could be fatal to any man. Furthermore, the Hydra had the unnerving ability to regrow decapitated limbs at an alarming rate. It was said that for every head she cut off, 2 more would grow in her place. Her lair was Lake Lerna in an ancient part of the Peloponnese. The Hydra would hide in an underwater cave that was said to be an entrance to the underworld. The Hydra is known to be the second monster that Heracles encounters during his 12 labors. Before attacking the Hydra, Heracles covers his mouth and nose with a cloth to keep himself safe from the deadly toxins the monster emits from its many mouths. Heracles originally attacks the Hydra with a sickle, sword, or her trademark club. However, the hero quickly realizes that for every decapitated head, the creature quickly grows 2 more. The battle would seem hopeless. Heracles then devises a plan to turn the tide against the monster. As soon as the hero decapitates one of the Hydra's heads, he immediately carries a torch to the stump of her neck. The wound is cauterized, and the creature cannot produce any more menacing heads. Heracles finally releases the final head of the Hydra, effectively killing the creature and completing his second task. Number 15. Mares of Diomedes. The mares of Diomedes, also called mares of Thrace, were a herd of man-eating horses in Greek mythology, belonging to the giant Diomedes. Diomedes was one of the bloodiest and most feared kings. He was the son of Ares, the god of war, and as he was the living personification of brutality, violence, tumult, and confusion. He lived on the shore of the Black Sea, from where he ruled the warrior tribe of the Bistons. But their most precious asset, their great treasure, were 4 wild mares that they cared for as if they were their daughters. The mares, which were the terror of the Thracian region, were kept tied with iron chains to a bronze manger and were called Podargos, the swift one, Lampon, the bright one, Xanthos, the yellow one, and Deinos, the terrible one. Heracles defeated these monsters in the 8th labor of him and fed the mares with Diomedes, his own master. Number 16. Cerberus. Cerberus is a popular creature in ancient mythology. Hades' loyal watchdog, Cerberus, was a massive 3-headed hound that guarded the entrance to the underworld. The beast was said to only have an appetite for living flesh, and would therefore only allow departed spirits through, while consuming any living mortal foolish enough to come near it. It is said that the 3 heads were meant to symbolize the past, present, and future. In other versions of the myth, the 3 heads represent youth, adulthood, and old age. While Cerberus was a remarkable creature of mythology, he is probably best remembered as the 12th and final labor that Heracles most often performed. Heracles must enter the underworld, fight the beast without using weapons, and then bring Cerberus to the surface world, alive, to present him to the Mycenaean king Eurystheus, the man who originally ordered Heracles to perform these tasks as a reward for his sins. Heracles manages to board the beast. Then, using his great strength, he throws the animal over his shoulder and drags it into the mortal world. It is said that upon seeing Cerberus, Eurystheus was so terrified that he hid himself in a large vase and begged Heracles to return the hellhound to Hades. Number 17. Nimian Lion. The Nimian Lion was the same as the Hydra, son of Typhon and Akida. His claws were sharper than any deadly sword, and his glowing skin was impenetrable armor. He also had great strength. This monster lived in the lands of Argolide, near the Nimian hills. Legend has it that he kidnapped defenseless women and took them to his cave, attracting the knights who dared to rescue them. It is said that when they arrived at their cave, they saw an injured woman, and when she approached, she transformed into a lion, who killed them and offered their bones to Hades. This beast was finally slain by Heracles in his first of the 12 labors. Since then, the great hero has worn the lion's skin as a helmet. Number 18. Stymphalian Birds. Stymphalian birds are man-eating birds with bronze beaks, sharp metallic feathers that can hurl poisonous dung at their victims. According to Greek mythology, these flying creatures were raised by the god of war, Ares, or were pets of the goddess of the hunt, Artemis. They reproduced rapidly and swarmed across the countryside, destroying crops and terrorizing people. Heracles defeated these creatures in the 6th labor of him, shooting arrows tipped with poisonous blood from the slain monster, Lan Hydra. Birds that attack people are generally considered scary on their own, but these birds very specifically liked to eat people, which is terrifying. However, the real problem is that the bird's feathers were made of bronze, razor sharp, and could be shot at people. These weren't birds to scare away, unless you also wanted your hand to be crushed into confetti of bloody meat. Number 19. Erymanthian Boar. In Greek mythology, the Erymanthian boar was a mythical creature that took the form of a furry, untamed boar with great weight and foam-filled jaws. He would emerge from the thick, cypress-clad heights of Erymanthus to haunt the groves of Arcady and abuse the land of Sophis. Heracles was once again the hero to defeat this monster also in his 4th labor. In order to capture the boar, Heracles first chased after it with shouts and then led the exhausted creature into the deep snow. He then caught him and tied him up with chains. Number 20. Minotaur. The Minotaur is one of the most fascinating monsters in Greek mythology. With the body of a man and the head of a bull, his name means Bull of Minos. He was the son of Pasiphae and the Cretan bull. Minos, son of Zeus, asked Poseidon for help so that his people would make him king of Crete after the death of Asterion. Poseidon agreed and brought back from the seas a beautiful white bull, which Minos promised to sacrifice in his name. But Minos was amazed by the beauty of the bull and sacrificed a different one in its place, hoping to trick Poseidon. This enraged Poseidon, and in revenge he awakened desire in Pasiphae, wife of Minos, telling her to have a son with the white bull, which resulted in the Minotaur. The Minotaur became violent as he got older, so Minos built a labyrinth and locked the Minotaur in it. The Minotaur is best remembered for his affinity for devouring flesh and his cryptic home deep within the confines of the twisting labyrinth. The labyrinth was an impossible place built by the inventor Daedalus. It is said to have been located under the palace of Knossos, the home of King Minos of Crete. The story goes that King Minos, the ruler of Crete, lost his son Androgeus when the boy was murdered in Athens. Accounts vary, but one version says that the prince was assassinated because the Athenians were jealous of his many victories at the recent Panathenaic Games in Athens. Subsequently, King Minos would wage war on the Athenians and finally find victory. As penance for the murder of Androgeus, every year the Athenians were forced to send 7 young men and 7 maidens to the island of Crete, where they would be released into the labyrinth and systematically hunted down and eaten by the Minotaur. It is at this time that Theseus, the hero of Athens, volunteers to be sent to Crete as a sacrifice to the monster. Upon arrival, Theseus is helped by Ariadne, the daughter of King Minos. Before the Athenians can be trapped inside the labyrinth, Ariadne frees Theseus from her holding cell and leads him to the entrance of the great labyrinth. Theseus ventures into the labyrinth and discovers the Minotaur sleeping in the center of the great dungeon. Using the element of surprise, Theseus attacks the Minotaur and dispenses with the monster with ease. The hero and the other Athenians, along with Princess Ariadne, escape Minos's palace and quickly retreat to Athens under cover of night. Number 21. Python. He was born by Gaia from the mud of Deucalion's deluge, with which Zeus ended the Golden Age. It was a dragon or snake of impressive size that guarded the Oracle of Delphi. He died after an epic fight against Apollo, who for this took possession of the oracle and gave the priestess the name of Pythia. Among the reasons for the death of Python at the hands of Apollo, we must also consider a possible revenge of Apollo towards the snake, which before the birth of the god, followed the mother of Apollo to the island of Delos. Number 22. The Dragon of Colchis. The Colchia dragon in Greek mythology was a giant fire-breathing serpent that guarded the Golden Fleece. The Golden Fleece was the prize sought by the Greek hero Jason and his crew of Argonauts. With the help of the witch Medea, Jason managed to defeat the guardian monster and take the fleece. The witch put him to sleep, and the hero left him alone or killed him. Dragons were common creatures in Greek mythology. In addition to the Colchian dragon and Python, another famous monster was Ladon. This creature was a serpentine dragon that coiled and twisted around the tree in the garden of the Hesperides, protecting the golden apples. According to one version of the myth, Heracles killed the monster with a bow and arrow when he came to collect the golden apples in his 11th labor. Number 23. Pegasus. A beautiful white horse with large wings. It was the horse of Zeus and was born from the blood of Medusa when Perseus cut off her head. Pegasus is a noble and intelligent horse, and he does not allow himself to be ridden by just anyone. Only those with a good heart can ride Pegasus, as he is able to sense the evil that lurks behind people's intentions. Pegasus is one of the creatures from Greek mythology that has been widely featured in film and television, becoming a symbol of honor in many stories. Number 24. Griffin. This mythological creature takes the hybrid form of an eagle and a lion, combining its meanings fierce and brave into one being. They usually roamed in packs and were difficult to tame. However, the demigods were able to tame them, and under them, they became loyal. They feed on the meat of horses. A myth tells the story of Apollo, who went in search of griffins and returned to Greece mounted on a hydra. The hydra took care of him and watched over his treasures. Number 25. The Cyclops. The Cyclopes were primordial giants that were said to have been born from Gaia, the earth. They were said to possess great strength and ferocity, with a bulging eye protruding from their forehead. Fearing his power, the Cyclops were thrown into the pits of Tartarus by their father Urano. The monsters remained imprisoned when the Titan Cronus overthrew Uranus and took his place as ruler of the universe. It was only when the Olympians rose to power that the Cyclops found freedom. The mighty Zeus unleashed the monsters, who in turn would make lightning bolts for the young Olympian. Perhaps the most famous story involving a Cyclops involves Odysseus and his woeful journeys. In Book 9 of the Odyssey, Odysseus and his crew find themselves trapped in the cave of the mighty Cyclops Polyphemus. The monster blocks his escape and devours the flesh of its captives day after day. Known for his cunning, Odysseus devises a plan to escape. Odysseus offers Polyphemus the wine that the traveler brought from his ship. The Cyclops turns himself in and is soon very drunk. Feeling joyful, Polyphemus the monster asks the man his name. Odysseus replies that his name is No One. When Polyphemus falls asleep from intoxication, Odysseus and his men blind the Cyclops by stabbing him in the eye with a sharp staff. Polyphemus, now enraged, yells at the other Cyclops on the island that nobody has blinded him. Odysseus and his men escape from the monster's cave by joining the underbelly of the numerous sheep that Polyphemus herds. Now completely blind, the monster feels the animals' backs as they go out to graze. The Cyclops is unaware that his captives are escaping silently, hiding under his herd. As Odysseus sails away, he boasts to the defeated monster, who in turn attempts to sink the man's ship by throwing rocks off a high cliff. Number 26. Centaur. A centaur is a creature that is half man and half horse. Centaurs have the head, arms, and torso of a man and the body and legs of a horse. The centaurs lived in the mountains of Thessaly, along with the Lapitas, with whom they maintained a constant war, because the centaurs wanted to kidnap Hippodamia, the beautiful wife of King Pirithous. King Pirithous celebrated his wedding with a great banquet, and invited all the inhabitants of the region, including the centaurs. But the centaurs had never tasted wine. So when they got drunk, they wanted to kidnap Hippodamia, as well as other banquet attendees. This event later resulted in a war that was won by the Lapitas. Number 27. The Furies. When the Titan Kronos castrated his father Urano and threw his penis into the sea, as is done, the drops of blood that fell to the ground became the Furies. Having been born of blood from severed genitalia, it was reasonable to expect that the Furies were not in a good mood. They spent their time finding the people who had done wrong and tormenting them to a horrifying death, mainly by lashing them repeatedly with their flails. It's true that the Furies are more goddesses than monsters, but since many stories describe them as having the heads of dogs, snakes for hair, hind wings, and coal-black bodies, I was willing to make an exception. The Erinyes are primitive forces prior to the Olympian gods, so they do not submit to the authority of Zeus. They lived in Erebus, or in Tartarus according to other traditions, from which they only returned to Earth to punish living criminals. During their stay in the underworld, they subjected the eternally condemned to endless torture. Despite their divine ancestry, the gods of Olympus show a deep revulsion mixed with awe towards these beings and do not tolerate them. For their part, mortals fear them terribly and flee from them. Number 1. Aklut. Aklut is an orca spirit from Inuit mythology who takes the form of a giant wolf, or a wolf-orca hybrid when on land. He is a vicious and dangerous beast that ventured onto the land to hunt humans and other animals. Its tracks can be recognized because they are wolf tracks leading to and from the ocean, indicating that the creature is waiting for prey underwater nearby. Dogs seen walking towards or in the ocean are often considered to be one of these malevolent beasts. Little is known about this spirit other than that it can transform between an orca and/or a wolf. Number 2. Nanook. Nanook or Nanook also means polar bear in Inuktitut, which is the official language of the Inuit people, also known as Eskimos. In the Inuit religion, Nanook was the leader of the bears and punished hunters who violated taboos. He was also known to bless hunters who were worthy of his blessings. According to myth, Nanook could resemble a human due to characteristics of polar bears, such as his long fingers and ability to stand upright. This led some of the Inuit tribes to believe that they were descendants of bears. The hunters believed that Nanook was the one who would decide who would succeed. In the past, they ate the meat of the polar bear and used its fur to make warm clothing and kamiks, which are soft, comfortable boots. Hunters considered Nanook a deity, whose skin would be kept inside the igloo. If a polar bear was male, hunters offered him spirit weapons and other offerings such as knives, needle cases, and scrapers if he was female. They believed that it was necessary to kill the animal in order to obtain its souls, which they would then take with them to the afterlife. According to legend, if a polar bear was treated properly, it could share the good news with other animals so that they too would be eager to be hunted. Number 3. Kalupiluit. The Kalupiluit, also known as the Kalupalik, is a terrifying creature that inhabits the waters of the Arctic and is considered incredibly ugly and smells strongly of sulfur. In Inuit mythology, the Kalupiluit is a creature said to kidnap children who misbehave or do not listen to their parents. This is to keep children away from the water and the edge of the ice where other natural predators exist. The Kalupiluit lives underwater with thin ice and will use the shallow depth to its advantage. It does this by hitting the ice in the shallows, luring the children into the noise, and then capturing them as they cause the ice to break. Another version of this story also says that he lures children to him by humming powerfully seductive melodies in their direction, and when they get close, the creature grabs the children and runs away with them. What they do with the captured children is up for debate, but no proposed scenario is good. At worst, they eat the children to remain immortal with their nourishing youth. At best, they put them under a sleeping spell and hide them in frozen caves for eternity. Number 4. Quaxtaceti. Quaxtaceti is a term used to describe a mysterious and terrifying sea monster reported by the Inuit tribes of Alaska. The Quaxtaceti is rarely seen, but its roar can be heard from beneath the icy water. The Quaxtaceti is a giant, malicious monster in the traditions and beliefs of the Native American Tenina people of the subarctic regions of Alaska in the United States. It is similar to the snakes of European and Asian lore, and many similar creatures have been recorded in legends throughout the world's oceans. Number 5. Mahaha. If you hear an eerie giggle carried on the Arctic wind, it could mean that the terrifying Mahaha is nearby. With a menacing grin, hideous teeth, and massive sharp claws, this being sports a crooked grin as it stalks lone travelers during the winter months, impervious to the cold. Also known as the Kungalukakit, the relatively small creature is routinely depicted scantily clad and almost always barefoot, with icy blue eyes peeking out from beneath a long, tangled mane. Perhaps most notable are his elongated fingers and equally elongated fingernails, which he uses to tickle victims to death, all while grinning from ear to ear. Luckily for the Inuit, the Mahaha is easily fooled. According to Inuit oral tradition, the Mahaha can be defeated by offering it a drink of water and pushing it into a river, where it will be swept away by strong ocean currents. Number 6. Turungak. Turngate are rarely seen, but they are responsible for much activity, both evil and benevolent. While they have been known to invite unsuspecting people to their caves in mountains and cliffs to trap and eat them, these beings can also come in handy when summoned by powerful shamans in times of need. Turngate are a species of shapeshifter and can take on a multitude of forms. Some are only visible to the shaman who summoned them, while others take on an almost demonic appearance with bared teeth, horns, and long claws, and others are unassuming and harmless seeming, a tactic that helps lure people back to their homes. The Torngat Mountains in Nunavik and Nunatsiavut get their name because they are said to be the home of these spirits. Number 7. Enuk Pugu. These giants that tower above humans have traveled and left their mark in the Arctic. Their traces are still visible on Earth. Some malevolent giants, others gentle, have been the subject of many stories told and works of art made by Inuit. There are stories of giants who were so big they would mistake polar bears for foxes and whales for seals. It was said that a famous giant could walk across mountains in one step and then adopted a human son to help him remove lice as big as rats. Some say that giants sleep for hundreds of years and that if you see a mountain on featureless terrain, it may be a fast-sleeping giant. Number 8. Tamatuyuk. Tamatuyuk is a scary vampire. This creature takes human form to gain the trust of a baby and then kills it by piercing its head with a needle or straw and then sucking its blood. Sometimes he can win the mother's trust, but when she's left alone with him, She takes him back to her lair and sucks his blood. Number 9. Sedna. Sedna is the goddess of the sea and marine animals in Inuit mythology, also known as the Mother of the Sea or Mistress of the Sea. Sedna's story, which is a creation myth, describes how she came to rule Adlivun, the Inuit underworld. There is more than one version of the Sedna legend. In a legend, Sedna is a giant, the daughter of the creator god Anguta, with a great hunger that leads her to attack her parents. Angry at her, Anguta takes her to the sea and throws her over the side of her kayak. As she clings to her sides, he cuts off her fingers and she plunges into the underworld, becoming the ruler of the monsters of the deep. Her huge fingers turn into seals, walruses, and whales hunted by the Inuit. Arnaquagsak is the Greenlandic version of the sea goddess Sedna in Inuit mythology. Arnaquagsak translates as Old Woman of the Sea. Number 11. Kikirn. Kikirn, Chikion, or Kilut is a hairless dog spirit from Inuit mythology. He is described as a large canine and completely naked except for fur on his paws. This creature is known to terrify Inuit, but it can also be easily scared if people call out its name. This creature silently follows travelers at night. When he is alone and far from home, the traveler is attacked by this ugly hound and kills him. Number 12. Palra Yuck. Palra Yuck, or Tijaruke, is a sea monster described as a kind of large snake-like creature that lurks in the waters off the Alaskan coast and terrorizes the locals. This creature has a variety of strange features. For example, it has 3 pairs of legs that end in mammalian feet, 2 heads that resemble those of a fox, short horns, 3 stomachs, thick fur, a long tongue, a tail that resembles that of a fish or a dolphin's tail, and a jagged ridge running the length of its back, complete with a trio of dorsal fins. The Palra Yuck not only has a strange appearance, but also has strange hunting habits. It is said to be carnivorous, and likes to lift the front 7 or 8 feet of its heavy body out of the water only to crash into the kayaks many of the natives use. For many Inuit, this creature is part of their nightmares. Number 13. Amarok. Amarok is the name of a gigantic gray wolf in Inuit mythology. It is a fierce and fearsome creature. It is said to hunt and devour anyone foolish enough to hunt alone at night and the unwary who have strayed too far from their village. Unlike Adlet that we will see next and the real wolves that hunt in packs, Amarok is a solitary hunter. Number 14. Adlet. The Adlet are a type of wolf-like creature that is based on Inuit mythology. A woman and a giant dog are believed to have been responsible for the birth of Adlet and his future progeny. According to the myth, a woman gave birth to 10 children. 5 were dogs, and 5 were Adlet. The Adlet are said to be half wolf and half man, which is a striking difference from the familiar werewolf. They are known to run quickly and often come into conflict with the man. They roam the tundra in herds, seeking out Inuit villages to feed on. In Inuit lore, although they are depicted as being taller than humans and cannibalistic, they eventually end up losing most battles or conflicts with man. Number 1. Bunyip. Bunyip is a feared water creature that inhabits swamps, streams, river pools, and lagoons. Accounts vary widely, and he is described as having different physical characteristics. This nefarious character, known in the Wemba language as the Devil, has been at the center of Aboriginal stories and legends since time immemorial. His fame has spread through the generations, making him a feared being who is said to have a particular taste for children. The Bunyip is not a silent hunter. Before launching into the attack, he emits a roar so thunderous it can chill the blood, especially if you are a woman or a child, his preferred victims. This unmistakable roar has been attributed to stray seals swimming upstream or to the marsh bittern, drawing parallels between the natural world and mythology. The physical description of the Bunyip is as varied as the accounts surrounding it. He has been compared to a bird, an alligator, and an emu all rolled into one. His strong hind legs and his surprisingly long arms are his deadly weapon. These long, strong limbs are said to be capable of choking their prey to death. In water, the Bunyip moves with the grace of a frog, but on land, it rears up on its hind legs, reaching a terrifying height of up to 13 feet. But the creepiest description of the Bunyip is that of a dog-faced creature with a ponytail, dark fur, a duck beak, and deadly fangs. Another version describes it as a bearded snake. Despite the variability in its appearance, there is universal agreement that the bunyip is a creepy aquatic mammal. The bunyip's abilities are as impressive as they are terrifying. It is said that he can alter the water level, paralyze his victims with a mere roar, and hypnotize humans into his slaves. The story of the bunyip takes us to a man who committed the worst of sins, eating his own totem animal, a violation of the sacred law of the rainbow serpent. The benevolent spirit Bayami punished the man by transforming him into a malevolent spirit. Since then, the bunyip has been luring tribesmen and their cattle into the water, only to devour them. Today, the term bunyip is used to describe evil spirits in Aboriginal culture. Some speculate that the bunyip may be linked to Bunjil, a mythical figure believed to have created all animals and humans. Number 2. Rainbow serpent. It is one of the most common and well-known creatures in Australian Aboriginal mythology. This giant serpent is a god of water and weather, responsible for the creation of rivers, mountains, and lagoons. This sacred creature, as old as the earth itself, is an iconic and deeply respected character in Australian Aboriginal mythology. The rainbow serpent, with its shiny, shimmering body, resembles the vivid colors of a rainbow reflecting on calm waters. It is not a simple snake, but a powerful deity, a primordial entity, a being that is believed to have sculpted the rivers, mountains, and lakes of the Australian landscape. It is a being that embodies the interconnectedness of life, water, and fertility. Legends tell that the rainbow serpent emerged from underground at the dawn of time. Its serpentine body created great valleys and mountains, while the water that fell from its body created rivers and lakes, thus shaping the Australian geography. On his journeys, she also gave life to plants and animals, linking herself to the life cycle of nature. Despite its generosity, the rainbow serpent is also a creature of power and punishment. Aboriginal stories say that breaking the sacred laws of this deity can provoke his wrath, leading to severe punishments such as floods and droughts. Thus, the rainbow serpent serves as a reminder of the importance of respect for the earth and the laws of nature. The glow of the rainbow serpent is also a symbol of eternity, a constant link between the past, present, and future. It represents the continuity of life and the incessant connection between man and nature. Number 3. Yowie. Often compared to the Bigfoot of North America, the yowie is a furry creature that lives in the desert. Although its existence is shrouded in legend, the stories of this impressive hominin are countless and are passed down through the generations of Australia's Aboriginal tribes. This furry giant, whose name means spirit of the forest, is the Australian Bigfoot. He stands up to 3 meters tall and is covered in thick fur that can range from dark gray to reddish brown. His eyes, bright and deep-set, are said to be able to pierce the soul of any unfortunate he meets. The yowie, with its superhuman strength and amazing speed, has been described in ancient Aboriginal tales and modern sighting stories as a creature of reclusive ways. It is said that it lives in the densest and most inaccessible parts of the jungle, only coming out to look for food, or, according to some tales, to kidnap people to drag them into its hidden world. Although its appearance can be terrifying, accounts of encounters with the yowie often reflect a creature more frightened than frightening. Some tell stories of yowies fleeing to the safety of the forest upon discovery, leaving behind only giant footprints and a story to tell. However, not all encounters are so harmless. There are darker tales of yowies attacking humans or animals, displaying a ferocity that rivals any beast in mythology. The yowie is an integral part of Aboriginal mythology, a link between the human world and the hidden forces of nature. Number 4. Quinkins. Emerging from the oral traditions of the Australian Aboriginal community, these fascinating creatures come in 2 distinct forms, each with their own personality and role in mythology. On the one hand, there are the Timara, tall and slender, moving in the stillness of the night. These slender, almost ethereal silhouettes are said to be benevolent spirits, but they are not creatures one would want to pass at midnight. With their grim appearance, the Timaras are known for their love of children. Despite their terrifying appearance, these nocturnal giants do not harm children, but take a peculiar affection for them, even kidnapping children who venture into the dark to play with them. On the other hand, the Imjim, with their broad and robust bodies, pose a more palpable threat. These hulking, grotesque beings are known for their love of mischief and mayhem. Unlike their tall, skinny counterparts, the Imjim have a reputation for being destructive and mischievous, always looking for ways to cause trouble for humans. In Aboriginal Australian stories, the Quinkins serve as reminders and life lessons. The Imjim teach children the importance of respecting the night hours and the rules of the tribe. The Timara, on the other hand, with their love of mischief, urge the young to stay on the right path and avoid harmful actions. Number 5. Wandjina. In the vast and picturesque landscapes of northwest Australia, where the sky meets the earth in a symphony of colors, there is an ancient legend, a story as old as the wind itself. This is the legend of the Wandjina, the supreme ancestral spirits in the mythology of the Kimberley Aboriginal peoples. The Wandjina, mystical figures of great power, are considered the creator spirits of the world. It is said that during the dream time, a mythical time when the world was formed, these divine beings emerged from the clouds and created the land and sea, mountains and rivers, and all forms of life. Visualize these supreme entities, large human forms with large round heads or halo shapes, but no mouth. His huge black eyes, said to represent storms and rain, survey the world with timeless wisdom. Their bodies, depicted in rock art, are often painted in red, black, and white, and are adorned with patterns and symbols, each telling a story about the forces of nature and the cosmos. But the Wandjina are not only creators, but also protectors. They are believed to have the power to control elemental forces. When they paint their image on the cave walls, it is a sign of their presence and their continued protection. These divine beings are also said to regulate rainfall and storms, crucial for survival in the harsh conditions of Australia. Thus, the Wandjina are revered and respected. Every year during the wet season, the Aborigines renew the Wandjina images, repainting the caves with devotion and reverence, thus ensuring that the spirits continue to protect them and bless them with rain and abundance. Number 6. Tiddalik. Tiddalik is the biggest frog you can imagine. Tiddalik was not only famous for its size, but also for its insatiable thirst. A thirst so strong that one day he drank all the water in the world. Picture this: dry rivers, empty ponds, lakes turned into wastelands. The world, once teeming with life, now languished in the drought caused by Tiddalik's inordinate thirst. In the midst of this great drought, the other animals were desperate. Without water, life on Earth was in danger of disappearing. So in desperation, the animals got together and hatched a plan. They decided that the only way to get the water back was to make Tiddalik laugh until he vomited up all the water he had consumed. Thus began a parade of animals, each trying to make Tiddalik laugh with his funniest tricks. But Tiddalik was not laughing. Finally, it was the turn of the Nabonum eel. By twisting and twisting in the strangest ways, he managed to make Tiddalik laugh, and when Tiddalik laughed, he laughed out loud, releasing all the water he had drunk. The rivers flowed again, the lakes filled again, and life once again flourished in the landscape. Tiddalik's story is more than just a tale. It's a lesson in balance in nature, a warning against greed, and a reminder that sometimes laughter really can be the best medicine. Number 7. Mimi spirits. Imagine a starry night in the vastness of Australia's Northern Territory. The wind whispers ancient stories as you wander into the deep shadows of the rocky mesas. There, hidden among the rock crevices and dark corners, reside the Mimi spirits, ethereal creatures from Aboriginal mythology. Mimi spirits are incredibly thin and tall beings, so fragile that a breath of wind could break them. To avoid this, they spend most of their time hidden in the cracks and crevices of the rocks, coming out only when the wind is calm. With their ethereal, supple bodies, they can glide through the tightest spaces, appearing and disappearing as gently as a breeze. But don't let its fragile appearance fool you. The Mimi spirits are custodians of the vast knowledge of art and survival. According to Aboriginal stories, they were the first to teach humans how to hunt, dance, and paint. The cave paintings that they find scattered throughout the Northern Territory are the work of these beings, left as a gift to humanity. They are also known for their love of mischief. It is said that if you stray from the path in their territory, they can take you to their world and lose you in it. However, they are not malicious. They just love to have fun at the expense of unsuspecting intruders. Number 8. Yaramayahu. The Yaramayahu is one of the most intriguing beings in Aboriginal mythology. He is not a being easily found in conventional fairy tales. He is a small, red-skinned, strange-looking being with a disproportionately large head and a toothless mouth. But the most disturbing feature of him is his limbs ending in suction cups, similar to those of an octopus. This being does not actively hunt. Instead, he prefers to spend his days lounging in the branches of fig trees, patiently waiting for an unsuspecting traveler to seek refuge under the tree's shade. Once its prey is close enough, the Yaramayahu descends and attaches itself to its victim, sucking the blood with the suckers on its hands and feet. Unlike other vampiric creatures in legend, however, this being does not leave its victims empty, but rather leaves them alive, albeit weakened by loss of blood. And here comes the truly creepy part. After feeding on it, the Yaramayahu vomits its victim, who is now transformed, turned into a smaller copy of this creature. This process is said to be repeated several times until the victim finally becomes a Yaramayahu. So if you ever find yourself under a fig tree in the middle of the Australian bush, remember this story. Make sure you keep going and don't stop, no matter how enticing the shadow of the tree is. After all, you never know who or what might be waiting for you in the branches above. But above all, remember to subscribe and share this video with your friends. 1. Draugr. The Draugr are the undead from Norse mythology. Although some stories describe them as blood-drinking creatures, they are more like zombies than vampires. The Draugr possess superhuman strength and can increase in size at will, but they cannot shake the unmistakable stench of decay and have the hideous visage of a corpse. The Draugr creature often lives in their graves to defend the treasure they were buried with, but they have also been known to enter communities to wreak havoc on the living, often tormenting those who wronged them in life. They can kill by crushing someone with their superior strength, eating their meat, eating them whole in their enlarged state, or kill indirectly by driving a person insane. These creatures were said to be able to enter the dreams of the living to torment them, always leaving behind a gift to show the victim that the encounter was real. Draugr can be killed and suffer a second death if their bodies decompose too much, or if they are burned, dismembered, or destroyed. Evil, greedy, or unpopular people were believed to be more likely to become Draugr after death. 2. Dwarfs. They are small, misshapen creatures that originated as maggots from the corpse of Ymir, the first of the Norse giants, and endowed with reason by the gods of Asgard. They lived underground in a place called Svartalfheim, which was thought to be a maze of mines and forges. They are said to have made the greatest weapons and jewelry, including Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, Gungnir, Odin's spear, and Thor's wife's long golden hair. In some myths, dwarf creatures are depicted turning to stone if exposed to sunlight. For example, a dwarf named Alvis is said to have claimed the hand of Thor's daughter in marriage, but was tricked into speaking until dawn, when he was struck by sunlight and turned to stone. 3. Elves. There are two different types of elves in Norse mythology: the Dokalfar, or dark elf creatures, and the Liosalfar, light elf creatures. Dark elves are believed to be the same as dwarves and dwell underground, and are almost black to the eye. The light elves, on the other hand, were described as more beautiful to behold than the sun. The light elves were often considered to be much like the gods of the Aesir and Vanir, with the Vanir god Freyr being the lord of the elven homeland of Alfheim. Elves are generally described as having ambivalent relationships with humans. Both could cause human disease and had the power to heal. Humans and elves were thought to occasionally interbreed to produce children that looked human but possessed extraordinary intuitive and magical powers. 4. Fenrir. Fenrir was the most famous of many wolf creatures mentioned in Norse mythology. He was the son of the god Loki and the giant Angerboda. The gods of Asgard raised Fenrir to prevent him from wreaking havoc on the 9 worlds, but he grew quickly and caused so much trouble that they decided to put him in chains. The gods convinced Fenrir to let them chain him by pretending they were playing a game to see how strong he was. Fenrir easily broke all ties. Eventually, the gods ordered the dwarves to make a special chain, which was stronger than any known, yet seemed light. Fenrir was suspicious of this chain and demanded that one of the gods put his hand to his mouth while being chained as a sign of good faith. The god Tyr agreed to this, even though he knew he would lose his hand. When Fenrir realized that he had been tricked, he took Tyr's hand. Meanwhile, the gods chained him to a rock and placed a sword in his jaws to keep them open. The resulting slime formed a foamy river called Expectation. The ominous name of the river Expectation seems to be a reference to Ragnarok, the end of the world in Norse mythology, when Fenrir will break his chains and take revenge. Fenrir is also said to be the father of Skoll and Hati, other dire wolves who chase the sun and moon respectively. It is also said that when Ragnarok arrives, he will finally catch his targets to devour. 5. Fossagrim. The Fossagrim, also known simply as the Shadowed One, is a water spirit who plays enchanting music on the violin. Usually depicted as a handsome man, half naked or nude, the Fossagrim is a tale of good guys and bad guys. He plays the violin with incredible talent, imitating the sounds of the forest, the wind, and the water. For one, Fossagrim has sometimes been known to teach humans to play the violin as well as he does, but only if they sacrifice a goat. If the goat is too skinny, Fossagrim will only teach how to tune the violin, but a sufficiently prepared goat will be a lesson until the player's fingers bleed, at which point he will be able to play well enough to make the trees of the forest dance. On the other hand, he lures women and children into lakes and streams where they drown, which is pretty harsh, but like in all parts of mythology, where good things happen, death is often near. 6. Huldra. The Huldra are guardians of the forest, part of a group of Ra who protect several different places. Huldra females are always described as incredibly beautiful and alluring, but with the long tail of a cow and a bark-covered back. Huldra can disguise themselves as young women to walk in the world of men. The power of his illusion is only broken if someone sees his tail. They visit communities to lure unmarried young men into the forest where they are kept as slaves, lovers, or sometimes killed by Huldra. If one of her victims is released or escapes, she will live forever without the temptation to return to her captor. 7. Jormungandr. Also known as the Midgard serpent, the Jormungandr is another of Loki and Angerboda's children. It is a serpent or dragon that lives in the sea that surrounds Midgard, the visible world of humans. It is said that Odin threw him into the water so that he would not get into trouble. But this creature grew so large that he was able to encircle all of Midgard and grab hold of his own tail. He is described as an enemy of Thor. In one story, Thor was fishing with the giant Hymir, but not satisfied with the whales Hymir caught at his favorite fishing spots. Thor insists on going further out to sea, where he catches Jormungandr with his hook. He pulls the snake out of the water and they come face to face, with Jormungandr dripping with venom and blood. Hymir is so shocked by the scene that he cuts the fishing line before Thor can kill the serpent with his hammer, and the serpent returns to the sea. It is also said that Thor and Jormungandr are destined to kill each other during Ragnarok, when the serpent will rise from the sea and poison the ocean and sky. 8. Jotnar. The Jotnar are the giants of Norse mythology, and are described as having powers that rival those of the gods. Rather than referring to its size, the name Jotnar means devourers. They are enemies of the gods, and just as the Asgardian gods represent order, the Jotnar embody chaos. However, many of the Asgardian gods are descended from the Jotnar. Odin is half Jotnar and Thor, 3/4 Jotnar. The Asgardian gods seek not to kill the Jotnar, but to keep them at bay, so that the universe stays in balance. The role of balance in the universe is reflected in the Norse creation myth, in which the gods build the cosmos from the corpse of the slain Jotnar Ymir. 9. Kraken. The Kraken are aquatic monsters that are said to inhabit the coasts of Norway and Greenland. They are often depicted as giant octopuses or squids, and some stories suggest they were so large that their bodies could be mistaken for an island. If men were drawn to the island, it would sink when they set foot on it, killing them and leaving them as food for the Kraken. When it rose to the surface, it was believed to cause large eddies that would help it attack ships. Lurking in the deep waters, the Kraken rises when disturbed by ships. When the sailors see its sheer size, they head towards it, believing it to be the shore, only to be swept under to their doom. The Kraken may be inspired by the existence of the giant squid, which, at 18 m long, is a true monster of the waters. Fortunately, however, human beings rarely see the real thing. The Kraken ate mainly fish. Their excrement was so thick and smelled so strongly of fish that it would attract many other fish to the area for the Kraken to devour. 10. Mare. One of the most fearsome creatures in Norse mythology was Mare. This monster could give people nightmares and would sit on them while they slept. It was a common belief that Mare was the soul of a living being that left a person's body like demons would, so that they could torture the innocent at night. Often these were witches, whose souls took the form of animals, but normal people, particularly teenagers, were also thought to become Mare when their spirits wandered. The idea that the soul wandered at night was a common phenomenon. Odin's soul wandered so often that he worried that one day it would not return to his body. It was also believed that when Mare touched a living thing, people, cattle, or trees, she would cause her hair to become tangled. This was probably used to explain the phenomenon of the Polish braid, which is a disease of the hair. It was also said that it was for this reason that the branches and roots of some trees became entangled. 11. Norns. Norns are female beings and creatures who create and control fate, including the fate of the gods. They appeared at each birth to weave the thread of destiny by casting lots of wood, weaving a piece of cloth or carving symbols in wood. The Norse seem to have believed that fate was blind and unforgiving, and there is no evidence that anyone charged the Norns to change their fate. The three main Norns also served as caretakers of the Tree of Life that contains the 9 worlds of Norse mythology. His care only delays the death of the tree, since a cornerstone of Norse myth is that all things eventually come to an end. All existence will end with Ragnarok. 12. Ratatoskr. Ratatoskr, drill tooth or perforation tooth, is a squirrel that runs up and down Yggdrasil, the world tree, carrying messages between the eagle Vedrfolnir, who perches on Yggdrasil, and the serpent Nidhogger, who lives under one of the 3 roots of the tree. Most theories believe that this is to stir up hostilities between the two, spreading slander and gossip. In turn, the two attack the tree, leading to a cycle of decay and rebirth that refreshes the tree. However, he is mischievous and enjoys stirring up trouble between the wise eagle that sits on the top of the tree and the hungry dragon that dwells in its roots. In some stories, he is described as having the more sinister motive of convincing the two adversaries to use their powers to destroy the tree. 13. Sleipnir. Sleipnir was Odin's horse. He had 8 legs, so he could have 1 leg in each of the Norse worlds. Loki is actually the mother of Sleipnir. Loki was transformed into a mare and was impregnated by the stallion of a giant that Loki was trying to trick. He is described as the best horse and is sometimes ridden to reach Hell itself, the realm of death. 14. Trolls. 2 different types of trolls are found in Norse myths. There are big, ugly trolls that live in forests and mountains, and small, gnome-like trolls that live underground in deep caves and caverns. They are generally portrayed as unintelligent and rather malevolent, but can show kindness in exchange for a favor. Trolls were thought to be responsible for the many rocks that cover the Scandinavian countryside. Some were used by them as weapons. Others are trolls turned to stone by the sun. 15. Valkyries. The Valkyries were female spirits in the service of the god Odin. They were graceful and noble maidens who carried dead heroes to Valhalla, the heavenly home of Odin's fallen army, while they awaited Ragnarok. It is true that the Valkyries carried the dead into battle, but their name, Selectors of the Dead, hints at their darker side. They don't just choose who enters Valhalla, they also choose who lives and dies in battle, using malicious magic to secure your preferences. Number 16. Mimir. The name Mimir is often translated as the one who remembers, which already gives a clue to his role as a keeper of knowledge and wisdom. He is best known for his role in the war between the Aesir and the Vanir, 2 tribes of gods in Norse mythology. At the end of this war, both sides agreed to exchange hostages as a token of goodwill and to seal their peace. Mimir was sent by the Aesir to the Vanir along with another god, Hoenir. While Hoenir was seen as a leader and a great advisor, in reality, he relied heavily on Mimir's advice. When the Vanir discovered that Hoenir was unable to offer wisdom without Mimir at his side, they felt betrayed. As a result, they beheaded Mimir and sent his head back to the Aesir as a warning. After receiving Mimir's decapitated head, Odin, the main god of the Norse pantheon, decided not to let all that knowledge go to waste. Odin performed magical rituals and embalmed Mimir's head to preserve it. Once reanimated, Mimir's head offered Odin advice and wisdom. Mimir, even in the form of a talking head, became one of Odin's most valuable advisors, offering him wisdom and insights from the depths of knowledge. There is a sacred well called Mimisbrunner, or the Well of Mimir, which is located at one of the 3 roots of the Yggdrasil, the world tree that connects all the realms in Norse cosmology. This well is said to contain wisdom and knowledge. Odin, in his endless search for wisdom, approached the well. However, Mimir, guardian of the well, asked a price for drinking from its waters. Odin paid the price by sacrificing one of his eyes, which was then thrown into the well. In return, he was able to drink and gain immense wisdom. Number 17, Audumbla. After the formation of the primordial world of ice and fire, Audumbla emerged from the melted drops. Along with her, the first giant being, Ymir, also came into existence. Ymir fed on Audumla's milk, while the cosmic cow was nourished by licking the salty ice blocks of the primordial world. As Audumbla licked the ice blocks, on the 3rd day of doing so, he unveiled a fully formed human being. This being was Buri, the first god and ancestor of the Aesir family, the main pantheon of gods in Norse mythology. Buri had a son named Bor, who in turn was the father of Odin, Vili, and Ve, the gods who would later create the world as we know it, and who would play central roles in many other Norse myths. Number 18, Hugin and Munin. Hugin and Munin are 2 ravens that play an essential role in Norse mythology, specifically in relation to Odin. Hugin comes from Old Norse and means thought. Munin also comes from Old Norse and means memory or mind. Hugin and Munin are faithful companions of Odin, the father of all. They perch on his shoulders and are his eyes and ears in the world. Each day at dawn, Odin sends Hugin and Munin flying around the world to observe events, and then they return at dusk to whisper to him all that they have seen and heard. Ravens are seen as symbols of wisdom and knowledge, something Odin values greatly. The nature of Hugin and Munin, representing thought and memory respectively, underscores Odin's constant search for wisdom and his desire to understand and remember all that occurs in the world. Odin's dependence on these ravens also reflects the ephemeral nature of knowledge and memory. In certain texts, it is mentioned that Odin fears the loss of Munin, memory, more than that of Hugin, thought. Number 19, Berserkers. Berserkers are a fascinating figure in Norse mythology and sagas. Although they are also intertwined with the history and actual warfare practices of the Vikings, here I will focus exclusively on the mythological aspect. The word berserker probably derives from berserker, which in Old Norse means bear shirt. This suggests that these warriors wore bearskins. Another theory holds that it could come from bearsark, meaning shirtless or without armor. According to the sagas, it was believed that berserkers could transform or take on the characteristics of certain animals, especially bears and wolves. This transformation was not necessarily physical, but manifested in their fury and abilities in battle. Warriors who took on the spirit of the wolf were sometimes called Ulfednar, werewolves. Berserkers had a special relationship with the god Odin. They were believed to be warriors chosen by the god, and in many sagas they are described as followers or even direct descendants of Odin. The frenzied and ecstatic nature of berserkers in battle was seen as a manifestation of Odin-inspired rage. One of the most famous characteristics of berserkers was their ability to enter a state of extreme fury in battle, known as Berserkergang. In this state, they were incredibly fierce and seemed to be immune to pain and fear. It was said that during this trance, they did not distinguish between friend and foe and could harm their own allies. It is suggested in the sagas that berserkers may have engaged in specific rituals before battle to induce the rage state. These rituals might have included the consumption of certain substances, dances, chants, or invocations to the gods. Number 20, Garmr. Garm is often described as the guardian of Hell, the realm of the dead. He is said to be bound in front of the cave Nippahellir, and there he performs his watchful duty, similar to the function of the canine Cerberus in Greek mythology, who guards the gates of Hades. During Ragnarok, Garm is freed from his bonds and faces Tyr, one of the bravest warrior gods of the Aesir, in battle. Both Garm and Tyr kill each other during this confrontation. It is important not to confuse Garm with Fenrir, another wolf of great significance in Norse mythology. While Garm guards the gates of Hell, Fenrir is known to be one of Loki's sons and has a more direct role in Ragnarok, where he is prophesied to devour Odin. Number 21, Hraesvelgr. His role in Norse mythology is relatively limited, and not as thoroughly developed as other characters or creatures. Hreisvelgr is described as a giant who takes the form of an eagle. He sits at the ends of the world, on the edge of the sky. One of his most distinctive characteristics is that, according to sources, when he flaps his wings, he creates the wind that blows over the worlds. In this way, he is responsible for the winds in Norse cosmology. Number 22, Geri and Freki. Geri and Freki are two wolves that have a prominent role in Norse mythology, closely associated with Odin. Like Hugin and Munin, Odin's ravens, Geri and Freki are close companions of the god. They are almost always at his side, especially on Odin's throne in Asgard, the abode of the gods. There is an interesting contrast here. While Hugin and Munin represent aspects of Odin's mind, thought and memory, Geri and Freki can be seen as representing a more physical or primordial aspect, in line with the wild and predatory nature of the wolves. Number 23, Surtur is the leader and most powerful among the fire giants that reside in Muspelheim, one of the 9 worlds in Norse cosmology. Muspelheim is the realm of heat, flame, and light. Surtur plays a crucial role in Ragnarok. According to prophecy, he will march against the gods at the end of time with his flaming sword, which will shine brighter than the sun. During Ragnarok, Surtur is said to fight the god Freyr, who will not have his magic sword because he gave it away in exchange for love.
I did it for love.
The battle will culminate in Freyr's death, marking one of the many tragedies of this cataclysmic event. After the battle, Surtur will spew fire across the world, consuming and purifying the burning earth, leading to the destruction and eventual rebirth of the world. Surtur's sword is often highlighted in mythological sources due to its destructive power and brilliance. During Ragnarok, its radiance is described as surpassing that of the sun. Number 24, Lindworms. Lindworm are generally depicted as long, elongated snakes or dragons, often wingless. In some depictions, they may have a pair of front legs, but lack hind legs. Their bodies are sinuous and resemble those of giant snakes. While they are found in the mythology and folklore of several European cultures, they are particularly prominent in Scandinavian traditions. They are often associated with evil or danger. They are known to terrorize populations, demand sacrifices, or guard treasures. There are tales in which Lindworm are the result of a curse or spell. In some stories, these beings may be transformations of people, often as a result of an act of evil or some kind of hex. Number 25, Gullinbursti. Gullinbursti was created by the dwarves Brock and Sindri as part of a wager with the trickster god Loki. He has the ability to run faster than any horse, even through water or air. This is impressive, considering the importance and speed of horses in Norse mythology. His golden hair glows in the dark, lighting the way for his rider. This characteristic makes him invaluable in the dark of night or in shadowy regions. Gullinbursti was given to Freyr, the god of fertility, rain, and sun. Freyr is one of the main deities in Norse mythology, and the boar is one of his most distinctive attributes. Gullinbursti symbolizes power, wealth, and fertility, all characteristics associated with Freyr. Number 26, Skoll and Hati. Skoll chases the sun, the goddess Sunna, across the sky with the intention of devouring her. Hati pursues Mani, the moon god, for the same purpose. Skoll and Hati are said to be descendants of Fenrir, the monstrous wolf son of Loki. It is prophesied that during Ragnarok, both wolves will finally succeed in their hunt. Skoll will devour the sun, and Hati will devour the moon. This act will symbolize the darkness and chaos that will envelop the world during this cataclysm. Number 27, Disir. The Disir are, in general, supernatural female forces. They can be either benevolent or malevolent depending on the circumstances. They are often invoked for protection, especially during birth, death, and battle. They can also be honored to ensure a fruitful year in terms of harvest and well-being. Some interpretations associate the Disir with the Norns, the 3 female deities of destiny in Norse mythology. However, while the Norns are a specific trinity that determines the destiny of beings, the Disir represent a broader and less well-defined group of spirits or deities. Number 28, Eikthyr. Eikthyr is a stag or reindeer that resides in Valhalla, where fallen warriors known as Einherjar are welcomed. He sits on the roof of Valhalla and chews the branches of the Laradar tree. It is not directly specified, but some believe that this tree could be a manifestation of or a reference to the world tree, Yggdrasil. From its horns drips dew, which then becomes the rivers of the world. This characteristic makes it an essential figure for the water cycle in the Norse cosmos. This constant generation of water from his body reinforces the interconnectedness of all beings and elements in Norse cosmology. Eikthrunir is mentioned in texts such as the Poetic Edda, particularly in the poem Grimnismal, where his position in Valhalla is described and how dew flows from his horns to form the rivers. Number 29. Heidrun. Heidrun is a goat in Norse mythology, which like the deer consumes tree foliage and produces mead for the Einherjar. She is described in the Poetic Edda and in the prose Edda. Heidrun resides in Valhalla, in the Great Hall of the Fallen Warriors. The amazing thing about Heidrun is that, instead of milk, he produces an endless and divine mead that fills a great bowl in Valhalla. This mead is what the Einherjar drink. Number 30. Fylgja. A Fylgja is a guardian or protective spirit that is associated with a person, or sometimes an entire family or clan. These spirits are linked to the person's destiny, and are often considered to be born and die with them. They usually appear in the form of animals, especially in dreams or visions. The type of animal could reflect the nature or character of the person to whom the spirit is linked. For example, a leader or warrior might have a Fylgja in the form of a wolf or bear, while someone of a calmer nature might have a deer or bird. In some sagas and tales, these spirits may also appear in human form, especially as women. These manifestations are usually ancestors or mother figures associated with the person or family. Often, seeing a person's Fylgja, especially in unusual circumstances, can be an omen of death or some other important event. If a person saw his or her own Fylgja while awake, this was generally considered a bad omen. Number 31. Saehrimnir. Saehrimnir is a creature within Norse mythology that plays a unique role in the daily cycle of Valhalla, the great hall where fallen warriors reside. Saehrimnir is an animal, often described as a boar or some form of beast, although its exact nature is not always specifically detailed in primary sources. Each day in Valhalla, it is slaughtered and cooked by the cook of the gods, Andrimnir. Then, his flesh is served to the Einherjar, the fallen warriors who reside in Valhalla. The Einherjar feast on the meat as part of their daily feast, accompanied by mead from the Heidrun goat. What makes this boar special, however, is its regenerative capacity. After being cooked and consumed, the next day, it comes back to life, ready to be slaughtered and cooked again in a never-ending cycle. Before I introduce you to the last member of our list, I would like to remind you that we have a special feature, channel membership. This option is one of the best ways to help us keep this space alive, allowing us to offer you at least 2 videos every week. Creating this content requires considerable effort, and relying solely on views and advertising can be tricky. So if you are interested, and of course, if your situation allows it, I invite you to join as a member. This is an excellent opportunity not only to support us, but also to integrate you more actively in our community, participating in the selection of topics and in the planning of future videos. I deeply appreciate your attention and support. And now, without further delay, we continue. Number 32. Svadilfari. Svadilfari is a famous horse in Norse mythology, known mainly for his role in the story related to the construction of the walls of Asgard, the abode of the gods. After the end of the war between the Aesir and the Vanir, the gods decided to build a wall around Asgard to protect themselves from giants and other threats.
Welcome.
A builder offered to build the wall in 3 winters in exchange for the goddess Freyja, the sun, and the moon. The builder had an amazing helper, his horse, Svadilfari, which possessed supernatural strength and stamina. The horse was so powerful that progress on the wall advanced rapidly, and it seemed that the builder would accomplish his task on time. Realizing that the builder would be able to complete the wall in time, and that the gods would therefore have to deliver Freyja and the stars, the gods demanded that Loki find a solution, for it was he who suggested accepting the builder's offer in the first place. Loki, in one of his trademark tricks, transformed himself into a mare to seduce and distract Svadilfari. Without the help of his invaluable horse, the builder was unable to complete the wall in time. Eventually, the builder was revealed to be a giant and was defeated by Thor. Due to the encounter between Loki in mare form and Svadilfari, Loki gave birth to a son, an 8-legged horse named Sleipnir. Sleipnir is considered the fastest horse and is Odin's steed. Number 1. Curupira, protector of forests, plants, and wild animals. It is one of the most popular and oldest legends in the country. There are reports on the Curupira dating back to the 16th century. The forest demon, as it is also called, is a supernatural entity that lives in the forests, assuming the responsibility of protecting the fauna and flora from the attack of hunters. This creature is characterized by having a body covered in red hair, green teeth, and feet facing backwards. This last quirk is used to trick people trying to follow you. They end up confused when looking at the footprints that indicate the opposite path to the one the Curupira actually followed. Legend still says that the Curupira has the appearance of a child. Despite having the same goal of protecting the forest, the Curupira and the Kaipora are not exactly the same creature. It is also considered a Tupi-Guarani mythological being. Number 2. Pink River Dolphin, creature capable of impregnating women and disappearing. Also of indigenous origin and very popular in the Amazon region, the boto would be a magical animal, similar to a dolphin, that, during the June festivities, transforms into a very attractive, communicative, and conquering man. When in his human form, the dolphin is dressed entirely in white and wearing a large hat. This hat is used to hide the holes in the head, which are the animal's nostrils that do not disappear upon transformation. Legend has it that the boto chooses the most beautiful girl at the party to seduce, then takes her to the bottom of the river, where she impregnates her. In the past, it was common to say that when a woman mysteriously became pregnant, the button was to blame. The fantastic narrative about the pink river dolphin tried to justify cases of pregnancies outside or before marriage, especially in riverside communities in the Amazon region. It was also a way of trying to hide or camouflage possible abuses against young people and girls. Number 3. Sasi Perere. He loves to play pranks. He is a protector of the forests, especially of medicinal herbs. The most popular folklore character in the country, the Sasi Perere, is a black boy who wears a red hat, smokes a pipe, and has only one leg. The Sasi would have lost his leg in a capoeira fight. Unlike other legends, the story of the Sasi would have its origin in the indigenous groups of southern Brazil. However, with the popularity of the myth, there are versions of the legend in all regions of the country and also in Argentina and Uruguay. She live in the forests and love to play pranks to scare people who enter their habitat without their permission. Number 4. Cuca. Brazilian legend of the witch Cuca, alligator-headed witch who eats disobedient children. She is described as an old-looking witch with the head of an alligator and large claws. Legend has it that the Cuca lives in the forests and likes to kidnap disobedient children. Whoever is caught by the Cuca is used as an ingredient for the evil creature's meals. The origin of the Cuca would be in Galician Portuguese folklore, which had a kind of dragon that also devoured rebellious children. Number 5. The Headless Mule. A woman who was cursed for having a relationship with a priest. The supernatural creature is described as a fire-breathing mule where its head should be. This legend has a strong moral and sexist character, since it represents the punishment for breaking the chastity of women. Any woman who fell in love or had sex with a priest would be turned into a headless mule. Other versions of the story say that a woman who has relations with a man before marriage will be bewitched as a headless mule. Still, according to the popular story, the headless mule runs through the fields and forests letting out very loud neighing, scaring people and animals wherever it goes. The origin of the legend is European, especially from Portugal and Spain. Its popularity in Brazil is evident, as well as in other Latin American countries, such as Mexico and Argentina. Before continuing with the video, did you know any of the creatures mentioned in the video? Can you tell more about them? Share your stories in the comments and feel free to suggest me more creatures or mythologies you want on the channel. Number 6. Iara, Mother of Water. The seductive siren who lures men to drown in the river. Originally from the Amazon region, The water mother is described as a creature that has the upper body of a woman but has a fishtail instead of legs. The Iara inhabits the rivers of the Amazon. According to legend, Iara has beautiful black hair and sits by the river singing mesmerizing melodies that attract the men of the region. After seducing them, Iara leads her victims into the depths of the river, drowning them. Some versions of the legend even say that Iara devours her victims after they drown. Whoever could escape the charms of the water mother would go mad. The only way to restore the person's sanity would be through the help of a PIAA, the indigenous spiritual leader. Number 7. Boy Boomba. The Boy Boomba myth revolves around the story of a slave couple, Pai Francisco and May Catarina. Pregnant Catarina was looking forward to eating beef tongue. Therefore, her husband decided to satisfy her desire for pregnancy by sacrificing one of her master's oxen. However, the ox she killed turned out to be her master's favorite animal. When the farm owner learned of the animal's death, he called indigenous healers and shamans to try to resuscitate it. The ox came back to life and the whole community celebrated with a big party since the owner of the ox forgave Francisco and Catarina. Brazilians celebrate this piece of folklore every year with huge parties across the country. However, this culture is much more alive in the north and northeast regions of Brazil. Number 8. Boitata. Popular belief says that Boitata is a snake with fire covering its body and eyes. Its goal is to protect Brazilian forests and wild animals from people who try to harm nature, especially those who set intentional forest fires. Legends also say that Boitata can turn into a flaming log that kills humans who set fire to the forests. Number 9. Caipora. Caipora is an indigenous spirit that can have a male or female form depending on the region of Brazil in which the story is told. They protect the animals and forests of the country. In addition to scaring hunters with loud howls, they distract them with false trails, causing them to lose their way in the forest. Its main objective is to protect the entire ecosystem. Because of that, they have the power to control animals and resurrect injured wildlife. Some stories say that Caipora will appear in the forest if someone whistles. Its origins come from the Tupi-Guarani indigenous mythology, and the word Caipora means inhabitant of the forest. Number 10. Boi Vaquim. Winged ox with golden horns and diamond eyes, present in the mystical universe of the Pampas of Rio Grande do Sul. It can shoot fire from its horns and nose. It frightens the peasants. Because it emits fire from the tips of its horns, it takes a lot of courage to tie him up. Number 11. Bradador. As an evil man who attacked his own mother who, when she died, neither God nor the devil wanted him, and the earth itself repelled him, and one day he shrank, withered with his skin wrinkled over his bones. From the grave he rose in obedience to his destiny, wandering and stalking the living in the dark of night. In Ituyutaba, in the interior of Minas Gerais, there is a variation of this legend. It is said that the dried body, after having been expelled several times through the ground, is taken by firefighters to an apparent cave in a mountain range, which is located to the south of the municipality. It is said that whoever passes the dirt road near the Serra do Corpo Seco at night can hear the cries of the creature echoing from inside the cave. In Parana, Santa Catarina, and part of the interior of Sao Paulo, it takes the name of Bradador, Berador, Baruleiro, and Bicho Nulhento, and frequented the towns, shouting in the fields after midnight. During the day, he assumed the form of a dry body and frequented cemeteries. Number 12. Ipupiara. Igpupiara or Hipupiara, according to the Tupis of the current Brazilian coast in the 16th century, was a sea monster and cannibalist. A chronicle by Pero de Magalhães Gandavo, published in 1575, tells that an Ipupiara appeared in 1564 on the beach of São Vicente and terrified the Indian slave Iris, who was going to meet her lover on the beach, and saw the appearance of the monster as a punishment. The Ipupiara, apparently, had already killed her lover, Andira. She fled in terror, but on the way she met Captain Baltazar Ferreira, who confronted the monster and killed it with his sword. According to the chronicler, the monster was 15 palms long, and was strewn with hair all over its body, and on its muzzle it had very large silks like mustaches. Another colonial chronicler, the Jesuit Fernão Cardim, said that such creatures were of good stature but very repulsive. They killed people by hugging them, kissing them, and squeezing them until they choked. These monsters also devoured human eyes, noses, fingertips, toes, and genitals. They also existed in a female form, and they had long hair and were very beautiful. The Apupiara was, according to these chroniclers, a bestial, hungry, disgusting being with primitive and brutal ferocity. Number 13. Mapinguari. An Amazon legend tells that a shaman discovered the secret of immortality, and that is why he became the Mapinguari. He angered the gods and was severely punished for discovering him, forcing him to transform into a wandering beast for the rest of his life. Modern sightings describe the beast as a giant sloth. Many cryptozoologists speculate that the Mapinguari is either a mylodontid or a megalonychid, giant, medium-sized ground sloths from the Ice Age that lived in the area. The creature supposedly also has a horrible odor, which can supposedly knock a man unconscious. Tribal depictions and stories describe a humanoid creature with a mouth in the middle of its stomach. It is sometimes said to have one eye, long claws, alligator skin, backward legs, and a second mouth on the belly. The Mapinguari stories may be folk memory passed down for centuries about the great creatures that once were. Number 14. Matinta Pereira. Matinta Pereira is an old witch who haunts the nearby houses at night. Legend has it that at night, Matinta Pereira turns into a bird and perches on the roofs of houses, emitting a high-pitched whistle that disturbs people's sleep and scares children. She only stops when the resident, already very enraged by her shrill whistling, tells her, "Matinta, you can come by tomorrow to pick up your tobacco." The next day, an old woman shows up at the residence where the promise was made, to pick up the tobacco. If she refuses what she promised, a misfortune will happen in the house of the one she made the unfulfilled promise. The old woman is a local who would carry the curse of becoming Matinta Pereira. The old people said that the transformation would be hereditary. That is, it would pass from mother to daughter. In case there is no heir, the Matinta, when she is about to die, asks, "Who wants it? Who wants it?" If someone answers, "I want," thinking that it is an inheritance of money or jewels, she actually receives the fate of becoming Matinta Pereira. Number 15. Boyuna. Boyuna legend has it that a very bad woman, belonging to an Amazonian tribe, used to kill and devour children. Outraged, her tribesmen decided to throw her into the river. However, she did not die because she was saved by a kind of demon called Anhanga. Eventually, they marry and have a son who was turned into a snake by his father so that he could live with his parents in the river. Over time, it grew to an enormous size, so much so that the rivers no longer had fish. With that, the great serpent began to terrorize and devour the people of the tribes who lived near the rivers. When her mother died, the snake became so enraged that she decided to live in a stage of torpor under the big cities. It is believed that the great serpent was responsible for creating part of the rivers. That's because when it crawled, it left gigantic furrows in the earth, which over time became mighty rivers, like the Amazon. Number 1. Huli Jing. Huli Jing are fox spirits that have the ability to transform into human beings, most often beautiful women. Although they can manifest in masculine forms, the most common representation is that of a charming and seductive woman. In early legends, they were often seen as masters of deception, seducing men and sometimes consuming their life essence. However, over time, the representations diversified. Some Huli Jing are presented as benevolent beings, protectors, and even loving partners of human beings. In addition to their ability to transform, many possess magical powers, supernatural knowledge, or the ability to foresee the future. It is said that the longer a fox lives, the more powerful it becomes. A fox that lives 1,000 years can transform into a human being and obtain the gift of eternity. There are many stories in Chinese literature about this creature. Some are tragic love stories between a fox spirit and a human, while others highlight the cunning and deception of the fox spirit. For example, in the famous novel The Jade Pipe, Yao Qinji, a young man falls in love with a beautiful woman who is actually a fox spirit, leading to a tumultuous relationship and an intense battle between the supernatural and the earthly. Number 2. Baizi. Baizi is often described as having the head of a lion and several eyes. Despite his formidable appearance, he is not considered a threatening creature, but rather a wise creature. One of the most famous stories tells of his meeting with the Yellow Emperor, one of the legendary Chinese rulers. During his meeting, He described to the emperor 11,520 types of supernatural beings that inhabited the world and imparted knowledge about each of them. This wisdom was later recorded in a text called the Shan Hai Jing, or Classics of Mountains and Seas, although unfortunately, the original text with the detailed description has been lost over time. Bai Zhe is a symbol of deep knowledge and esoteric wisdom. His interaction with the Yellow Emperor and the subsequent creation of the Shan Hai Jing reflects the constant human search for understanding and clarity in a world full of mysteries. Throughout Chinese history, the story of Bai Zhe has been a source of fascination and study. He has inspired scholars, writers, and artists, and the story of him has been used as an allegory for enlightenment and the acquisition of deep knowledge. Number 3. Qilin. Qilin stands out not only for its unique appearance, but also for its benevolent character and the deep symbology it carries with it. The description of the Qilin varies, but it commonly appears with the body of a deer or ox, dragon scales, and a lion's tail. Sometimes it is said to have a single antler on its head. His hooves are often described as those of a horse, and his face may bear a serene expression. Unlike many other mythological creatures, the Qilin is known for its gentleness and avoids harming any living being. It is said that he walks with such grace that he does not step on a single blade of grass. The appearance of the Qilin is considered an extremely auspicious omen. This creature is believed to appear only during the reign of a just and wise monarch or in times of peace and prosperity. Additionally, it is seen as a symbol of fertility, often representing the birth of great individuals. One legend holds that a Qilin appeared before Confucius's mother, presenting her with a jade as a sign of the imminent birth of her illustrious son. Number 4. Baihu. Baihu is a magnificent tiger of immaculate white with an imposing bearing. His appearance denotes power, authority, and a sense of protection. He is one of the heavenly guardians, specifically the guardian of the West. He is associated with autumn and represents the metal element. He symbolizes protection, bravery, and strength, and is often considered the defender against threats and evil spirits. His image is found in temples, palaces, and artifacts, serving as a reminder of divine protection and heavenly authority. It is also common to find him in stories where he helps heroes and monarchs in their fights against the forces of evil. In Chinese cosmogony, he is more than just a tiger. He is a symbol of protection and power. His presence ensures safety, while his image evokes respect and reverence. His importance in Chinese culture remains to this day. Number 5. Zhangshi. The Zhangshi, often translated as vampire or zombie, is typically portrayed as a reanimated corpse with pale, discolored skin, dressed in Qing dynasty attire. His arms are rigidly extended forward, and most distinctively, he moves by jumping. These nocturnal creatures emerge at dusk to feed on the qi or life force of the living. In doing so, they leave their victims weakened or, in some stories, transform them into Zhangshis. This vampire is said to arise in several ways. It can be the result of a failed resurrection by a sorcerer, a body that has not been buried after some time and has absorbed enough energy, or even a soul that has not been able to reincarnate due to past sins. Although powerful, they have weaknesses. They are repelled by garlic, their image in a mirror, religious songs, and glutinous rice. They also fear the roosters, whose crowing announces the arrival of dawn. Additionally, they are terrified of peaches, which are considered powerful in Chinese mythology. People also write talismans and stick them on the Zhangshi's forehead to immobilize him. In many stories, the Zhangshi is a manifestation of fears about death and the unknown. It can also represent the consequences of rituals not performed properly, or the importance of giving the dead a proper rest. Number 6. Peng. Within the vast collection of Chinese mythological creatures, the Peng occupies a special place as a representation of greatness, power, and transformation. The Peng is often described as an immensely large bird with wings spanning thousands of miles. Its size is so impressive that when it flies, it darkens the sky and produces storms. A known story about it comes from the writings of the Taoist philosopher Zhuangzi. According to this source, the Peng was originally a fish known as kun, which lived in the northern seas. The kun was so large that it was difficult to distinguish it as a fish. Eventually, he transformed into the Peng and undertook a great journey towards the south. In the stories, it is said to travel from the North Sea to the South Sea, rising to high altitudes. Its movements are grandiose, and its flight symbolizes transcendence and the ability to overcome minor obstacles by focusing on higher goals. Beyond its size and power, it is seen as a symbol of transformation and aspiration. Just as Kun transforms into Peng, it is suggested that individuals have the potential to transform and achieve greater heights in life. The story of the Peng is also often used to discuss the relativity of perspectives. What may seem like a grandiose act to some may be insignificant to others. Number 7. Tianlu. This being combines characteristics of several animals, generally being represented as a fusion between a dragon and a lion. Its scaly body, adorned with a single prominent horn on its head, gives it an imposing appearance that immediately captures the attention of anyone who views it. More than just a mythical being, it is a powerful symbol of wealth and prosperity in Chinese culture. He is believed to have an insatiable appetite for gold and silver, making him an ideal protector of treasure and wealth. In feng shui practices, it is common to place representations of the Tianlu in homes and businesses for the purpose of attracting fortune. Its role is not limited to attracting wealth. He is also credited with the ability to protect her. This makes him a popular deity in temples and other places of importance, especially those associated with wealth and power. Over the centuries, the influence of the Tianlu has left its mark on various artistic and cultural manifestations in China. Whether through sculptures, paintings, or traditional practices, this guardian of wealth remains a revered and respected figure in China. And you can also become a respected and revered figure, not in China, but on this channel. Before continuing with the video, this is a good time for you to give it a like, leave your comment, and the most important thing is share this content with your friends or with people interested in the topic. This is the only way for YouTube to recommend me to more people, which helps me a lot in my work. Thank you for your time, and now let's continue. Number 8. Bixi. This is a creature that combines characteristics of a turtle and a dragon. Its robust, tortoise-like body is frequently adorned with dragon-like features, such as a hairy beard or horns. A notable feature is that he often carries heavy stone steles or inscriptions on his back. Beyond its physical form, it is a symbol of support, resistance, and the perpetuation of memory and history. By carrying inscriptions on its back, it represents the preservation and transportation of knowledge and traditions through generations. It is common to find Bixi statues in temples, tombs, and other sacred places in China. These statues often hold important inscriptions, whether imperial decrees, historical achievements, or sacred scriptures, reinforcing their role as bearers of Chinese culture and history. Number 9. Longma. This creature is a combination of dragon and horse. It has the slender and elegant body of a horse, but with shiny scales and dragon-like features, such as horns on its head and sometimes majestic wings. He is not only known for his imposing appearance, but also for his relationship with the divine. It represents transformation and ascension, being a symbol of power and majesty. According to legends, a Longma is a horse that has managed to purify itself and rise to the state of a dragon, thus embodying spiritual evolution and enlightenment. One of the most famous stories related to it is the appearance of one in the Luo River, near the capital Zhou, leaving behind inscriptions that the great historian Confucius would later interpret. This story links the Longma not only to the divine, but also to wisdom and knowledge. Number 10. Phalian. Phalian is often described as having the body of a deer and the tail of a fish. In some representations, he also possesses wings and can carry a sack or bag within which he controls the winds. As the Lord of the Wind, he has the power to control and release winds from all directions. This gives him a significant ability to influence weather and atmospheric conditions, with him being able to cause storms or bring cooling breezes as he wishes. In mythology, Phalian had conflicts with the Heavenly Emperor. He used his powers to cause storms and destructive winds in the celestial realm. However, he was eventually defeated by the famous archer Hu Yi, who managed to take the magic bag from him and end his reign of terror. Number 11. Suzaku. Suzaku is frequently described as a beautiful bird with majestic red and orange feathers. It is often compared to a phoenix, but its meaning and symbolism in Chinese culture are unique. He is the guardian of the south. He is associated with summer and represents the element of fire. Furthermore, it symbolizes growth, regeneration, and life in its entirety. Its song is said to be able to make vegetation grow. He has been a prominent figure in Chinese art, literature, and religion for centuries. He represents the passion, warmth, and vitality of the South. He is also considered a harbinger of good fortune and renewal, as his appearance symbolizes new beginnings. Number 12. Nian. Nian is described as a large, ferocious monster with an appearance that combines features of a lion and an ox. He is often shown with a wide mouth, capable of devouring numerous people with a single bite. According to legend, he lived in the mountains or under the sea and only emerged at the end of the lunar year to attack villages, devour crops, and terrorize the population. Tradition says that the villagers, tired of the annual attacks, looked for ways to scare him away. They discovered that the beast feared the color red, loud noise, and bright lights. As a result, people began to decorate their houses with red paper and use firecrackers to scare away the monster. This practice led to some of the deepest Chinese New Year customs, including lion and dragon dances, as well as the use of fireworks. Beyond simply being a monster, it symbolizes the fears and challenges that people hope to overcome with the arrival of the new year. By confronting and driving away Nian, communities unite and become stronger through celebration. Number 13. Black Tortoise. Black Tortoise is often depicted as a turtle entwined with a snake. Sometimes the snake coils around the turtle, symbolizing a harmony between the elements of water and earth. He is the guardian of the north. He is seen as a symbol of resistance, protection, and support. He is especially revered as a protector against evil spirits and illness. Black Tortoise is a figure revered in many temples and religious practices in China. He is often invoked for protection and healing, especially against evil influences. He also has a strong connection with the martial arts, being sometimes considered the patron god of martial artists. Number 14. Pulao. Unlike other Chinese dragons, which are grand and majestic, Pulao is often depicted as a small dragon. But what he lacks in size he makes up for in his bold presence and raucous roar. Due to this characteristic, images of it are often used on bells and other instruments to enhance its sonority. His roar is considered a warning symbol. China has a rich tradition of dragons, and there are several others, each with their own characteristics and attributes. Pulao is one of the 9 sons of the dragon in some Chinese legends. Throughout Chinese history, his image has adorned bells and gongs, serving not only as a decorative ornament, but also as an amulet of protection against evil spirits and negative energies. Number 1. Urko. The Urko is a huge dog from Galician and Asturian mythology, generally considered a harbinger of death. It is said that the Urko emerges from the sea on misty winter nights, dragging noisy chains that howl loudly over the roar. Depending on the accounts, he will begin to roam the streets of the village or town, visiting the home of the soon-to-be dead and recruiting dogs for his pack along the way. The Urko appears as a dog, either black or white, with large horns and ears, as well as fiery eyes in some descriptions. Accounts of size vary from simply large to outright colossal, but a fairly common saying states that it could eat 20 bags of loose change in one bite, as easily as a donkey eats 2 grains of barley. The Urko is said to inhabit Boran, a dark and misty world somewhere underwater. Number 2. Lamiak. The Lamiak is a mermaid or Halia-like creature in Basque mythology. Lamiak live in the river. They are very beautiful and stand on the shore combing their long hair with a golden comb. They easily charm men. Lamiak help those who give them gifts by giving them help in work. If a farmer left food for them on the riverbank, they would eat it at night, and in return they would finish a field that he had left unplowed. In some places, it is believed that the bridges were built at night by Lamiak. In some places, Lamiak had to leave if the bridge they were building at night was left unfinished at cockcrow. People believed that Lamiak had left a river if a stone was missing from the bridge. Most of the Lamiak disappeared when men built small churches in the forest. A Lamiak stands on the other side of the rainbow combing her hair. When the sun shines on her hair, the rainbow opens. Number 3. Santa Compagna. Although the appearance of the Santa Compagna varies according to the tradition of different areas, the most widespread is formed by a procession of souls in pain, dressed in black robes with hoods that wander during the night. This ghostly procession forms 2 rows, which are wrapped in shrouds and barefoot. Each ghost carries a lighted candle, and their passing leaves a smell of wax or incense in the air. At the head of this ghostly company is a larger specter called Estadea. In addition to these visions, there are other legends that say that an intense cold is noticed whenever he appears, in addition to the smell and the sound of chains. It is also said that the ghosts are like a fog. The procession is led by a living person, mortal, carrying a cross and a cauldron of holy water, followed by the animas with lighted candles, not always visible, noticing their presence in the smell of wax and the wind that rises as they pass. This living person who precedes the procession can be male or female, depending on whether the patron saint of the parish is a saint or a patroness. It is also believed that whoever performs this function does not remember during the day what happened during the course of the night. Only the persons punished with this punishment can be recognized by their extreme thinness and pallor. Each night their light will be more intense, and each day their pallor will increase. They are not allowed to rest any night, so that their health weakens until they fall ill without anyone knowing the causes of such a mysterious illness. Condemned to wander night after night until they die, or another unwary person is caught, to whom the one leading the procession must pass the cross he carries, thus freeing himself from the souls in pain and condemning the other person. They walk, uttering prayers, funeral chants, and ringing a small bell. As they pass, all animal noises in the forest cease beforehand. The dogs announce the arrival of the Santa Compagna by howling in an inordinate manner. The cats flee terrified and really scared. To get rid of this obligation, the person who sees the Santa Compagna passing by must draw a circle on the ground and enter it or lie face down. Number 4. Anjana. The Anjanas are magical female spirits that inhabit near bodies of water, originating from Cantabrian mythology, known for their beauty and good deeds, and for their enmity with the evil Ojankanu. Anjanas are generally considered spirits of the forest, although some myths claim that they were sent by God to do good deeds and return 400 years later. In any case, they are known to guard the forest, guide those lost in it, reward the good, punish the bad, and repair or even anticipate the havoc the Ojankanu may wreak. Anjanas can be seen inhabiting springs, often talking to the water, or strolling through the forest eating fruits and honey. They also build palaces inside natural grottos and fill them with gold and treasures with which to tempt the greedy and reward the good. They will also be found on the eve of the spring equinox, dancing until dawn and scattering roses. Finally, although generally good, some Anjanas can turn bad. These beautiful human-like spirits have long black or golden, braided or straight hair, fair skin, and slanted, calm eyes with black or blue pupils. Anjanas often wear white dresses and blue cloaks, adorn their hair with silk ribbons and garlands, and carry a magical staff or pickaxe that may be golden, green, or change color every day depending on the myth. Anjanas are shapeshifters and can disguise themselves as nightingales, beetles, or trees. Leaving aside their general protection, Anjanas will also visit villages to bring gifts to the good, as well as bring clothes to the poor at Christmas once every 4 years. Number 5. Basajan. The Basajan, or Lord of the Woods, is a hairy and generally peaceful giant from Basque and Navarrese mythology. The Basajan were thought to build megaliths and held the secret to various skills and technological advances that humans learned through deception. The Basajan are huge humanoids, 2 to 5 meters tall, covered in hair, with beards and long hair, sometimes reaching their feet. The Basajan also had a female counterpart, the Basandere, who lacked a beard. Some versions of the myth claim that their souls were circular, much like the hooves of a cow. The Basajan used to be shepherds, often seen guarding huge flocks of sheep, whistling and shouting to warn human shepherds of approaching storms or packs of wolves, expecting a piece of bread in return, which would be picked up while they slept. The Basajan, like the Gentilak, harnessed their strength to build megaliths, and knew agriculture, music, blacksmithing, carpentry, architecture, and similar technologies long before humans. Martin Cheeky, or Saint Martinico, was a human trickster, known for stealing the knowledge of the Basajan through luck and wit. The Basajan were known to keep large piles of wheat grains obtained from agriculture but shared none with humans, so Martin put on huge, loose boots and climbed up to meet a Basajan and made a bet. Whoever managed to jump the highest over the pile would get the pile of wheat. Naturally, Basajan won, and Martin fell into the heap, collecting a multitude of grains in his boots. Having collected the seeds, mankind lacked only the knowledge to use them, which Martin gained by eavesdropping on a singing Basajan, learning not only when to plant a multitude of crops, including the newly obtained wheat, but also learning about music for the first time. The Basajan myth is supposed to have its roots in human coexistence with Neanderthals, both because of the knowledge they had when they first met humans and because of the hairy descriptions shared by both Neanderthals and Basajan. Number 6. Gentil. The Gentiles were a race of giants in Basque mythology. It was believed that the Gentiles lived alongside the Basque people. They threw rocks from one mountain to another, which led to various tales and explanations about the ancient stone buildings and large isolated rocks. It is believed that giants created the Neolithic monuments, such as dolmens, found throughout the Basque country. Even the Basque ball game, pelota, is attributed to these stone throwers. The tradition is still alive in the Basque power games of lifting and throwing stones. Some attributed to the Gentiles the defeat of Roland at the Battle of Roncesvalles, where the Basques defeated the Frankish army by throwing stones at them. They are also said to have invented metallurgy and the saw, and to have first cultivated wheat, teaching humans how to farm. However, they were unwilling to move into the valleys from the mountains, with a certain unwillingness to progress. They disappeared underground under a dolmen in the valley of Aratzaren in Navarra, when a portentous luminous cloud appeared, perhaps a star, which is said to have announced the birth of Christ and the end of the Gentil era. Other stories say that the Gentile threw themselves off a mountain. Only Olencero, a giant who appears at Christmas, remained. When making this video, I realized that I didn't know many of the beings in this list. If you know any of them that should be in part 2, write me below in the comments. Number 7. Shana. While it might look like the top number 4 on this list, Anjana, one comes from Cantabria and the other from Asturias. The Shana is a character found in Asturian mythology. A Shana can be a beneficent spirit, offering love water to travelers and rewards of gold or silver to those found worthy through some undefined trial, while others may attack people and steal their food. They live in springs and caves. Stories about Shanas can be divided into 4 broad categories. First, stories in which the Shana has a child. In these stories, the Shana exchanges her baby for that of another woman. Second, stories of Shana who suffer a curse. In these stories, an act performed according to a secret law can disenchant them. Third, Shanas who possess treasures and riches. The Shana may have acquired the riches by accident or by gift or theft. Sometimes the human character in the story gets the treasure, but most often not. Finally, stories about Shanas who are malicious. The most important tales in this category are those in which the Shana enters a house through a keyhole, those in which the Zana carries off and charms someone. Their hypnotic voices can be heard during spring and summer nights. Those who have a pure soul and listen to the song will be filled with a sense of peace and love. Those whose souls are not pure will feel like they are being suffocated and may go mad.
Here's Johnny!
Always female, it is a creature of extraordinary beauty that is believed to live in springs, rivers, waterfalls, or wooded regions with pure water. Shanas are generally depicted in one of 2 ways. In one, they appear as young, very beautiful Nordic girls with long blonde hair. She is usually depicted as petite or slender with long blonde or light brown hair, most often curly. This image is usually associated with Shanas who possess treasure or those under a spell. In contrast, in tales in which Shanas steal children and enter houses to bite or steal, the Shanas are small, thin, and dark in color. Number 8. Muladona. The Muladona, also known by the name of Donamula, meaning mule woman in Catalan. It is a mythological being well known in the peninsula, more specifically in Catalonia, where according to legend the Muladona was a woman who was not religious and was quite irreverent, and therefore the villagers cursed her, turning her into a mule woman. Since then, the Muladona walks through the mountains, and when she sees a shepherd with a group of mules tends to join the group, which alters the mules to the point that it is said that many of them, frightened and rowdy, came to die by rushing down the ravines because of the alteration that had caused them to see the Muladona. The appearance of the Muladona is the same as that of any other mule, but it was more shoddy. Its mane is like that of a woman's hair, and its face, without ceasing to be animal, has a certain human appearance. But if you do not look very carefully, the Muladona can go unnoticed by many shepherds. Number 9. Mura. Beautiful and seductive, Mura live under a spell. They are said to occupy liminal spaces and are stone builders of formidable strength. They will appear to you singing like nightingales and combing their beautiful manes, golden like the sun or red like fire. If you are lucky, they will promise you treasures if you are able to release them by breaking the spell. According to folklore, the enchanted Mura are the souls of the young maidens who were left guarding the treasures held by the males, Muros, before heading to Murama. The fairy tales starring the enchanted Muras are of Celtic origin. They are related to other female water divinities. Almost every Portuguese or Galician village has a story about them. Just as the Mairu of Basque mythology built dolmens, the Muras are also builders of ancient monuments. Enchanted Muras were believed to be the builders of Paleolithic hill forts, dolmens, and megaliths. They are also believed to live there. The Muras are also guardians of gold that can appear in many forms, such as figs, charcoal, skirts, skeins of thread, animals, or tools. One can be rewarded with this gift by a Mura, or it can simply be found or stolen. I don't need the gold of a Mura to be happy. I am satisfied that you are liking this video and that you are subscribing. That is very useful for me. Number 10. Coco. The Coco is a common monster in many Spanish-speaking countries. El Coco is a being that likes to scare children who do not want to sleep. His favorites are those who do not obey or who misbehave. El Coco likes to hide in the rooms of badly behaved children, as well as in their closets, drawers, and under the bed to scare them at night. In Spain, parents sing lullabies or tell rhymes to children, warning them that if they don't sleep, El Coco will come looking for them. Latin America also has El Coco, although its folklore tends to be quite different, commonly mixed with native beliefs and, because of cultural contacts, sometimes more closely related to the U.S. Coco. In Brazilian folklore, a similar character called Cuca is depicted as a female humanoid caiman or old woman with a sack. There is a famous lullaby that most parents sing to their children that says the Cuca will come for them and make them soup or soap if they don't sleep. Number 1. Tao and Karana. Tao was an evil spirit who had fallen in love with a maiden named Karana, a young woman of great beauty who spent her days sleeping. For this reason, they named her Karana, which means sleepyhead, and she was the nicest of the whole tribe. Tao fell in love with the young woman, and to conquer her, he transformed himself into a handsome young man. With the new appearance, Tao visited Karana for 7 consecutive days. On the last day, he tries to kidnap the young woman, for which Anga Tupari, spirit of good, is forced to intervene to prevent him. For this, he engages in a fight with Tao that lasts 7 days. Finally, Tao, using tricks, defeats Anga Tupari. Tao took Karana. This caused deep sadness and indignation in the tribe, so it was decided to give an exemplary punishment for the transgressor. Anga Tupari takes action on the subject and makes Tao the object of a terrible curse. The fruit of the union of Tao and Karana were 7 cursed children who were born as monsters. Each of the 7 was revered or feared, each possessing different skills and traits, fundamental to the Guarani tradition. Number 2. Teju Jagua. Despite being considered the most hideous in appearance, his ferocity was tempered by Tupa's choice. He remained calm and harmless, but was still feared by his fiery gaze. He eats fruit, and his brother Yasi Yatere fed him honey, his favorite food. He is considered the lord of the caves and protector of the fruit. He is also mentioned as a brilliant protector of buried treasure. Due to the curse Arasi placed on Tao for taking Karana, Tao's descendants were forever doomed to a misshapen and monstrous appearance. Thus, the couple's first child was a huge lizard with 7 dog heads and fire-breathing eyes. His appearance was the most horrible of the 7 brothers. The 7 dog heads on him hinder any movement. Some versions of the story say that Teju Jagua has only a giant dog head, but all versions agree that he has a limited ability to move. His skin turned shiny after rolling in the gold and precious stones of Itape. Number 3. Mboi Tui. He is the second son of Tao and Karana. He has a malevolent look that scares anyone unlucky enough to run into him. This creature is part snake and part parrot. It has the shape of a huge snake with a huge parrot head and a huge beak. He also has a red, forked tongue the color of blood. His skin is scaly and striped. His feathers cover his head. He patrols the swamps and protects amphibian life. He likes humidity and flowers. He emits an incredibly powerful and terrifying squawk that is heard from far away and strikes terror in all who hear it. He is considered the protector of aquatic animals and wetlands. And you can become our protector. Subscribe, activate notifications, and above all, comment. What is your favorite creature, myths, and legends of your region? Or what other gods and mythologies would you like to have on the channel? And now we can continue. The number 4 on this list in order of birth would be Monai, but we will leave it for later. Then you will understand why. Number 5, Jaysi Jatere. Jaysi Jatere, which literally means little piece of the moon, is the name of an important character in Guarani mythology. One of the 7 cursed children of Tau and Karana, Jaysi Jatere is one of the most important gods among the Guarani-speaking cultures of South America, especially Paraguay. His domain is Tanap, hidden treasures, and yerba mat. Jaysi Jatere is also considered the lord of the siesta, the traditional midday nap taken in many Latin American cultures. According to a widespread version of the myth, Jaysi Jatere leaves the forest and wanders the villages in search of children who are not napping. Although generally invisible, it is said that he is shown to children he does not find napping, and that anyone who looks at his cane falls into a trance. He can even lure them into the forest with a distinctive whistle. What happens to these children in trance differs depending on which version of the story is told. Many Guarani myths have multiple versions because no written version of the language existed, and all myths have survived only as word-of-mouth accounts. In the most beautiful version of the tale, Jaysi Jatere is considered a friend to those disobedient children. She takes them to hidden places in the forest to play and feeds them with honey and fruits. At the end of the nap, when everyone is tired from the play, Jaysi Jatere gives them a magical kiss that transports them back to their beds with no recollection of the experience. Most versions of the story are less than fair. Commonly, Jaysi Jatere leads entranced children into a cave where he gouges out their eyes and imprisons them for an untold amount of time, feeding them wild fruits and berries until they run wild as animals. Even more gruesome tales say that the children are returned to their brother Ao Ao, a cannibalistic creature that feeds on their flesh. Jaysi Jatere's power is said to come from the magical staff he carries, and if one is able to remove it, he breaks down and cries like a small child. In this state, one can ask him for the treasures he is guarding in exchange for the staff, as a captured goblin must reward his captor with a pot of gold. 6. Kurupi. He is one of the central legendary figures in the region of Guarani-speaking cultures. He is also one of the few figures still prominent in the region's modern culture. Kurupi is said to be somewhat similar in appearance to another, more popular figure in Guarani mythology, the Pombero. Like the Pombero, Kurupi is said to be short, ugly, and hairy. He makes his home in the wild forest of the region, and was considered the lord of the forest and protector of wild animals. Kurupi's most distinctive feature was a huge penis that would normally wrap several times around his waist, like a belt. Due to this characteristic, he was once revered by the Guarani as the spirit of fertility. Like the Pombero, Kurupi is often blamed for unexpected or unwanted pregnancies. It is said that his penis is prehensile. That it can grasp or hold, and due to its length, it is supposed that it can extend it through doors, windows, or other openings in a house and impregnate a sleeping woman without even having to enter a house. Along with the Pombero, Kurupi was a scapegoat used by adulterous women to avoid the wrath of their husbands, or by single women to explain their pregnancies. Children sired by Kurupi were expected to be small, ugly, and hairy like his father, and if they were male, they would inherit some of their father's virility. He had a huge. In some cases, Kurupi is blamed for the disappearance of young women, allegedly taking them to his home in the forest to quench his desires. Number 7. Ao Ao. The Ao Ao is often described as a ravenous sheep or boar-like creature with a huge set of tusks. Alternatively, it is also described as a large carnivorous peccary. The original Ao Ao is said to have profound reproductive powers and is therefore sometimes identified as the Guarani spirit of fertility. Is believed to have people as its only source of food. Although the creature's description is clearly not human, it is at least half human from birth, which explains its cannibalism. According to most versions of the myth, upon locating a victim for its next meal, will pursue the unfortunate person at any distance and over any terrain, not stopping until it has eaten. If a person tries to escape by climbing a tree, for example, the ao ao will surround the tree, howling incessantly and digging into the roots until the tree falls over. In fact, according to myth, the only way to successfully escape an ao ao is to seek refuge by climbing a palm tree. The tree contained some unknown power against the ao ao, and if its victim climbed into one, the creature would howl in defeat and go off in search of other food. Number 8. Luison. Luison, Luiso, or Lobison is the name of a monstrous creature from Guarani mythology. Luison's name is a variation of Lobizon, a name used in Argentina and Uruguay to describe the werewolf or a similar creature, which is in turn a variation of the Brazilian name for the werewolf, lobisomem, more literally, wolfman. What name Luison may have had before the influence of European mythology has probably been lost to the world. Guarani was not a written language, and all myths were passed down through storytelling only, so no written record of his original name would have been left. Luison was said to be the lord of the night and was associated with death. Their habitat was confined exclusively to graveyards or other places similarly related to the concept of death, and their only food source was dead, rotting meat. If Luison passes through a person's legs, the person is said to become Luison. In some versions, Luison only appears on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights. Luison also served the same function as the Grim Reaper in many European societies, and the touch of his cold, sweaty hand was said to be a sure sign that one's days on Earth were numbered. In the original version of the myth, Luison was the 7th and last child of Tau and Karana, and thus the most cursed of the group. He had a vaguely human appearance, but was said to be extremely ugly, even hideous-looking. Luison had long, dirty hair that fell down covering most of his body, pale, sickly skin and eyes, and accompanied by the constant fetid smell of death and decay. His appearance was so terrifying and repulsive that the mere presence of him would strike terror into any unfortunate enough to encounter the beast. As I mentioned before, I leave Monai for the last one on the list, since with him the cycle closes and this story ends. Number 4. Monai. Monai is the third son of Tau and Karana. This creature has a huge snake-like body with 2 straight, colorful horns on its head, which serve as antennae. His domains are open fields. He can climb trees with ease and glide down to hunt the birds that he feeds on and dominates with the hypnotic power of his antennae. Monai likes to steal and hide the products of his misdeeds in a cave. The continuous robberies and raids of him in the towns cause great discord among the people who accuse each other of the thefts and mysterious disappearances of his belongings. The people of the town came together to put an end to the misdeeds of Monai and his brothers. The beautiful Porosy offered herself to carry out this mission. She convinced Monai that she had fallen in love with him and that before celebrating her wedding, she wanted to meet her brothers. Monai left her in the care of Teju Jagua and went in search of the rest of her brothers. When she finally brought them all, the wedding rituals began. The brothers freely exchanged drinks and quickly became completely drunk. It was at that moment that Porosy tried to escape from the cave that was closed by a large stone. Monai prevented her from getting out of it and threw her back into the cave. Porosy yelled to alarm the people waiting outside. Knowing that she was lost, she ordered the people to burn the cave, even with her inside it. While this killed Porosy herself, it also successfully destroyed the cursed descendants of Tau and Karana, including Monai himself. In exchange for Porosy's sacrifice, the gods lifted up her soul and transformed it into a small but intense point of light. Since then, the gods destined the spirit of Porosy to illuminate the dawn. Number 1. Kamadhenu. Kamadhenu, also known as Surabhi, is a fascinating figure in Hindu mythology. She is described as the mother of all cows and is a perfect example of generosity and abundance. According to legends, this incredible divine creature has the power to grant all wishes and originated from the ocean of milk when it was churned by the gods and demons in search of the nectar of immortality. Visually, Kamadhenu is a splendid and otherworldly figure. Her body is that of a cow, a symbol of motherhood and sustenance in many cultures, but her face is human, suggesting intelligence and divinity. Her wings are those of a bird, which represent freedom and mobility. Kamadhenu's horns are those of an ox, a sign of endurance and industriousness, while her tail is that of a peacock, an emblem of beauty and dignity. Furthermore, her udder is full of divine milk, which symbolizes abundance and fertility. A fascinating legend about Kamadhenu involves her son, Nandi. When Kamadhenu was disturbed during her meditation by other cows, she responded by producing a large quantity of milk that flooded Shiva's abode. This disturbed Shiva's meditation, and he became enraged and wounded the cows with a ray of fire from his third eye. To calm him down, the gods offered Shiva the magnificent bull Nandi, who was the son of Kamadhenu. Number 2. Nandi. Nandi, the noble white bull, occupies an important place in the pantheon of Hindu mythology. He is not just an animal or a pet, but also an ardent devotee, the Vahana, vehicle, of Shiva, and his gateway to the divine world. Nandi grew up with immense love and devotion for Shiva, so much so that his life and purpose became intertwined with that of the god himself. Nandi is a majestic vision, bright, pure white, with powerful horns and a robust, strong body. But the most impressive thing about him are his eyes, full of unwavering devotion. Nandi's constant and protective presence in front of Shiva temples is said to be a reminder of his eternal devotion. On one occasion, when Shiva's anger threatened destruction, it was Nandi who intervened to calm the god. To do so, Nandi absorbed all of Shiva's wrath, an act that granted her eternal divinity and a position of honor as Shiva's chief attendant. Number 3. Airavata. This celestial white elephant is often mentioned in ancient Indian literature, especially in sacred Hindu texts, such as the Puranas. Airavata is the vehicle or vahana of the king of the gods, Indra, and is often portrayed in ancient illustrations and sculptures with Indra riding on his back. Airavata is no ordinary elephant. It is said to be a divine elephant that was produced during the mythical Sagar Manthan, or churning of the ocean of milk. According to mythology, when the gods and demons churned the ocean of milk in search of Amrita, the nectar of immortality, various divine beings and objects emerged, one of which was Airavata. He has the power to control clouds and rain. Some legends claim that Airavata used his trunk to draw water from the underworld and sprinkle it on the clouds, and that Indra then used these clouds to bring rain to the earth. This is probably why elephants are often associated with rain and fertility in Indian culture. However, the story of Airavata being born from the two halves of Garuda's eggshell appears to be a fusion of several narratives. Generally, Airavata is said to have been born from Sagar Manthan, and Garuda, the divine bird, has its own separate birth story. In short, each of these divine beings has their own unique and fascinating story in Hindu mythology, and although their stories sometimes intertwine and intersect, they are also quite distinct and specific. Number 4. Narasimha. Narasimha, the fourth incarnation of the god Vishnu in Hindu mythology, is distinguished as a fierce yet divine entity, embodying a confluence of terror and benevolence. His appearance is terrifying, a fierce combination of man and lion, with a lion's face adorned with a furious mane and intense eyes, and a robust, muscular human body. His open mouth roars with divine fury, and his nails are deadly claws. But despite his fearsome appearance, Narasimha is a profound representation of divine protection and cosmic justice. Narasimha's roar echoes through the cosmos, shaking the pillars of ignorance and arrogance. But to the devout, this roar is a heavenly song, a reminder of the constant divine presence and protection promised to the pure in heart. Although his appearance may be frightening, his gaze is a refuge for those devoted to him, and his ferocity, a guarantee of his role as protector. When Vishnu assumed this form to annihilate the demon Hiranyakashipu, Narasimha not only destroyed an evil being but also rescued Hiranyakashipu's devoted son Prahlada. This act showed that Narasimha is as protective and compassionate as he is fierce. The boy Prahlada, who remained faithful to his devotion to Vishnu despite the torture of his own father, found refuge in the terrifying form of Narasimha. In the arms of this fierce deity, Prahlada found a father and a protector. Number 5. Sharabha. Sharabha, an incarnate form of the powerful god Shiva, is a mosaic of strength, mystery, and devotion in Hindu mythology. Entertainingly, you can imagine Sharabha as the ultimate superhero, the being whose primary role is to rescue the world from disorder. Imagine a being with a body that is spectacularly terrifying and fascinating at the same time. Legends describe Sharabha as a creature with 8 legs, more powerful than a lion and an elephant combined, alluding to his extraordinary strength. Imagine this creature with a majestic and terrifying appearance, whose roar is like thunder and whose mere presence can make the bravest tremble. The front of Sharaba is that of a gigantic bird, a winged creature that symbolizes freedom and the ability to fly above all earthly things. Their wings are not only for flight, but are also deadly weapons capable of scratching and tearing with ease. Sharaba's back is that of a lion, a symbol of courage and power. This is the body of a being who is not afraid of anything and is ready to face any challenge with courage and confidence. But beyond the formidable appearance of him, what makes Sharaba truly special is the divine purpose of him. Born out of the need to calm Narasimha, a furious incarnation of the god Vishnu, as we saw before, Sharaba is not only a warrior, but also a healer. His task is to restore balance, proving that even the anger of the gods can be calmed and channeled for good. Number 6. Sheshnag. Sheshnag, the thousand-headed serpent. He is represented as a gigantic cosmic serpent carrying the god Vishnu in his resting form, a being of unimaginable scale, with a long, sinuous body that stretches across the starry skies and the depths of the sea. Each of his 1,000 heads is a work of art in itself, full of dazzling eyes and forked tongues that dance in the wind. This snake is not just a mythical creature, it is an embodiment of devotion and sacrifice. He abandoned the easy path of life and opted for penitence and renunciation of his desires. When Brahma saw his sincerity and dedication, he offered him any blessing he desired. But Sheshnag, in his humility and devotion, chose a role of service, one that he would carry out with honor and dignity, choosing to live in a perpetual dance of creation and destruction. Maintaining the stability of the cosmos shows a commitment to the balance and harmony of the universe. When Sheshnag is coiled, the universe opens like a lotus bud, revealing infinite worlds and endless possibilities. When he withdraws, the worlds close again, returning to the silence of non-being. This dance is that of creation and destruction, a cycle that allows life to flow and constantly change. Number 7. Garuda. Garuda, the king of birds and the mount of Vishnu, is a majestic figure in Indian mythology. He is a being of astonishing proportions, with a strong, muscular human body combined with resplendent golden eagle wings that stretch towards the heavens. On his back fold the most magnificent wings, each feather a miracle of nature, capable of obscuring the sun when they unfold. His eyes are an intense golden color, reflecting the wisdom and ferocity of a bird of prey. The story of Garuda is one of courage, cunning, and filial devotion. He and his mother, Vinata, had been enslaved by the snakes due to a deceitful deal. To gain his freedom, Garuda embarked on a daring mission to steal Amrit, the nectar of immortality, from the gods. This journey tested all his skills and determination, as he had to challenge the powers of Indra, the king of the gods. Garuda triumphed against all odds, demonstrating extraordinary courage and determination. With the Amrit in his possession, he was able to free his mother and himself from slavery. However, the story does not end there. Vishnu, seeing the impending tragedy if the snakes managed to drink the Amrit, asked Garuda to trick them to avoid it. Garuda, ever cunning, convinced them to bathe before drinking the divine nectar. During his absence, Indra attempted to recover the Amrit, resulting in a monumental battle between him and Garuda. Although Garuda bravely resisted, he ultimately could not maintain the Amrit. Some drops fell to the ground and the snakes licked them up. The power of the Amrit was such that it burned their tongues, dividing it in two, thus giving rise to the characteristic forked tongue of snakes. Garuda is a creature of great bravery, intelligence, and loyalty. Through his actions, he demonstrated his unwavering love for his mother and his willingness to confront heavenly powers in his defense. He is the guardian of the Amrit, the carrier of the gods, and a symbol of hope and resistance in Indian mythology. Number 8. Vasuki. Vasuki, the king of snakes and the eternal ornament on Shiva's neck, is an exceptionally intriguing figure in Indian mythology. Vasuki is a snake of astonishing size and beauty, with scales that shine like the sea on a moonless night. Coiled around Shiva's neck, he is distinguished by his fierce gaze and hypnotic eyes. The story of Vasuki is intertwined with that of the Samudra Manthan, the churning of the ocean of milk. In this epic legend, Vasuki became the rope with which the gods and demons churned the ocean to obtain the nectar of immortality. During the process, a poison emerged from the sea so powerful that it threatened to consume the universe. It was Shiva, the ascetic and destroyer, who intervened, swallowing the poison to save existence itself. However, Shiva did not ingest it, but retained it in his throat, acquiring the name Nilakantha, or the blue-throated. Vasuki, impressed by Shiva's sacrifice, offered himself as an ornament around Shiva's neck. Some say that the snake helps contain the poison in Shiva's throat, preventing its descent through the divine body. Vasuki's symbolism is rich and complex. Vasuki's 3 turns around Shiva's neck are a constant reminder of the cycles of time, past, present, and future. The serpent's fixed gaze to the right symbolizes the preservation of justice and natural order in the universe, a reflection of the perennial laws of reason that Shiva personifies. Number 9. Makara. Makara, a spectral guardian who arises from the fusion of the terrestrial and the aquatic, is an iconic figure in Indian mythology, with the front often depicted as a deer, crocodile, or elephant, and the rear with a fishtail. Makara is a vision of duality, symbolizing the intersection of 2 worlds, the earthly and the aquatic. This amphibious being is not only a creature of mythology, but an emblem of protection, revered for his ability to safeguard mortals and immortals alike. He has been designated as the vehicle of the river goddess Ganga, whose waters are said to purify mortals of their sins, and also of Varuna, the ancient Vedic deity of the sea and skies. Beyond his connection to these gods, Makara has taken on a role of great importance in the sacred architecture of India. As a mythological guardian, his image adorns doors and thresholds, symbolizing a protective shield against evil. Makara's intricate carvings are found in throne rooms and at the majestic entrances of temples, where his ever-watchful eyes protect the sacred sites. Makara's form is a testament to Indian mythology's fascination with hybrid creatures. Number 10. Mushika. Mushika, Ganesha's faithful mount, is an intriguing and endearing figure in Hindu mythology. He is not just an ordinary mouse, but a creature of great meaning and symbolism. Mushika is generally described as a small, golden rodent, attentively observing his surroundings with bright, sparkling eyes, ready to fulfill any task that his lord Ganesha may require. According to ancient Hindu scriptures, Mushika was originally a demigod of music, named Krauncha, who was cursed and transformed into a mouse by the sage Vamadeva. Krauncha had accidentally stepped on and damaged Vamadeva's staff, earning him the curse. In his mouse form, Krauncha wreaked havoc on people's lives, destroying farm fields and homes. When Krauncha arrived at the ashram of the god Ganesha, he managed to subdue him. Krauncha, full of remorse and regret, apologized, and Ganesha, ever the forgiving one, lifted the curse, but on the condition that Krauncha, now Mushika, would serve as his vehicle, helping Ganesha remove obstacles from the lives of people. The image of Ganesha riding Mushika is a powerful symbol in Hindu mythology, representing the ability to master our baser passions and desires, as well as overcome the greatest obstacles with wisdom and intelligence, qualities embodied by Ganesha. Although small in size, Mushika demonstrates the importance of humility, diligence, and loyalty, devotedly serving Ganesha and assisting him in his divine work of removing obstacles. Number 11. Timingala. Timingala, a sea creature described in the ancient Indian epic of the Mahabharata, is a figure of mythical and terrifying proportions. Its name, Timingala, suggests its predatory nature. It is a word composed of 2 Sanskrit terms, Timi, which means fish, and Gila, which means swallow. Together they give a clear picture of a beast that is a fish-eater, a creature whose size defies all logic and understanding, whose mere movement can stir the ocean waters and cause turbulence. This is Timingala, a being so vast and powerful that whales, the largest creatures in the animal kingdom, are mere morsels to him. Its presence in Indian mythology tells us about a creature that lives in the depths of the ocean, where sunlight does not penetrate. There, amid the cold darkness and crushing pressure, Timingala reigned supreme, a predator without rival. Each time it emerges from the depths to hunt, Timingala causes such commotion on the ocean surface that waves rise and crash violently, a warning to all creatures that the great predator is on the move. And when it opens its vast mouth to swallow a whale whole, The sea around it churns into a violent whirlpool, sweeping the unfortunate creatures towards their certain death. The myth of Timingila is a reminder of the unfathomable and terrifying nature of the ocean, a place where creatures of unimaginable size and power can exist in the darkness. Number 12. Navagunjara. Navagunjara is a truly fascinating and unique creature, an enigmatic fusion of 9 different forms of life. Its image is a spectacle of diversity and unity, a conjunction of the wild and the divine. Navagunjara's appearance is an amazing mix of different animals. It has the head of a rooster, symbolizing alertness and awakening. Its 3 legs belong to an elephant, a tiger, and a deer or horse, representing strength, agility, and speed. However, one of its members is a human arm, raised in a sacred gesture holding a lotus, a flower associated with purity and spiritual beauty. Navagunjara's neck is that of a peacock, a bird famous for its dazzling plumage and grace. Its back is the hump of a camel, known for its endurance and strength in difficult conditions. At his waist, he carries the ferocity of a lion, the king of the jungle. Finally, its tail is a snake, often seen as a sign of rebirth and transformation. Navagunjara, as a creature, breaks all conventions. It is an enigma that defies any attempt at classification. But in their diversity lies a message of unity, the idea that all beings are interconnected and part of a greater whole. Number 13. Matsya. Matsya is the avatar of Vishnu who took the form of a fish to rescue humanity from a great flood that threatened to destroy all life. Matsya, a majestic aquatic creature, is more than just a fish. It symbolizes the promise of preservation and resurrection, and represents a fresh beginning after the end of a destructive cycle. As large as a whale, this rainbow fish is a testament to divine omnipotence, a being capable of providing food for an entire country for an entire year. Number 1. Bakunawa. Bakunawa is a serpentine dragon in Philippine mythology. It is believed that he is the cause of eclipses, earthquakes, rain, and wind. It was generally believed to be a sea serpent, but it was also believed to inhabit either the sky or the underworld. It is believed that there used to be 7 moons in the night sky created by the supreme god Bathala. But Bakunawa, in awe of the light of the 7 moons, rose from the black ocean to swallow one of the moons completely once every 100 years, causing so eclipses and earthquakes. This angered Bathala, and thus the two are longtime enemies. 6 centuries later, with only 1 moon left, Bakunawa was tempted to eat the last one, and if he did, eclipses would darken the night, and earthquakes would shake the world. The ancient Filipinos knew they had to do something, or the world would disappear. Finally, they came up with an idea. The Bakunawa are afraid of loud noises, so all the ancient Filipinos gathered some pots and pans and ran to the ocean. Soon, the Bakunawa leaped out of the ocean, aimed for the last moon and closed its jaws around it. When the Bakunawa teeth grabbed the 7th moon, the ancient Filipinos began banging their pots and pans and yelling and shouting and began beating loud drums. The Bakunawa was so scared that he spat out the 7th moon just as he was about to swallow it whole and crashed into the ocean. Then the Filipinos cheered, and Bathala looked at the people smiling as his mortal enemy had finally been defeated. Since then, once every century, the Filipinos would bring their pots, pans, and drums and yell and shout to scare the Bakunawa and protect the 7th moon while Bathala looked on, happy for the people. Number 2. Tikbalang. In Philippine mythology, Tikbalang is a half-human, half-horse creature, and is very similar to the centaur in Greek mythology. It is believed that a tikbalang would scare travelers or lead them astray. To free itself from this, the creature would require the lost individual to turn their clothing inside out. These experiences often occur in dark, rural areas, and especially after sunset. Tikbalang may have originated from Hayagriva, an avatar of the Hindu god Vishnu, whose worship was first recorded in 2000 BC. Before the Spanish arrived in the Philippines, there were no horses in the area, so the story of a horse-like creature was not possible. In the pre-colonial period, Tikbalang were considered forest spirits and ghosts, and were also called multo and bibit. The Tikbalang is believed to reside in kalumpang trees, also known as banyan tree. This tree is somewhat feared and associated with haunted beings and paranormal activities. The Ballet tree is also believed to contain portals to other realms. Furthermore, they are believed to be the guardians of the elemental kingdoms and are seen guarding large trees. Number 3. Berberoka. The Berberoka is a water spirit or ghost that lives in wetlands, lakes, or swamps. He can lure his victims by drinking a lot of water. When the humans try to catch him, he floods and drowns them, also making them dinner. There is no clear description of what a Berberoka is, although it could be a ghost or a creature that looks like a shadow or a chameleon. In tropical regions where Berberoks are commonly found, locals tend to avoid empty ponds, even though the fish are tempting. Hungry travelers may believe the bounty offered by the Berberoka is a blessing, but they could end up being swept away by its deadly force. This creature is often described as an ogre-like creature that is camouflaged with rock-like skin or vegetation in its habitat. He usually hides in the dry river until humans come looking for him. In some stories, she is depicted as a female aquatic creature with fish-like features. The back of the Berberoka presents a thick layer of vegetation that resembles a group of small trees and rocks. Its natural camouflage allows it to hide in plain sight. Typically, the creature creates rock formations around its belly, while waiting for people to walk by. Number 4. Tianak. The Tianak is a small humanoid monster that pretends to be an innocent baby before attacking humans. He disguises himself as an abandoned baby in the woods or in the field. It screams loudly to attract a passerby, and when picked up, sheds its disguise as a snake shedding its old skin, revealing its true form, and kills the victim by biting and striking. Various speculations as to how the Tianaks came to be range from stillborn babies in the forest to unbaptized stillborn babies of Catholic influence. Number 5. Batabat. In Philippine mythology, the Batabat or Bangungot is a vengeful demon. These demons were blamed as the cause of the fatal nocturnal disease called Bangungot. They usually come into contact with humans when the tree they reside in is cut down and made into a support pole for a house. The Batabat forbids humans from sleeping near its post. When a person sleeps near it, the Batabat transforms into its true form and attacks that person. She sits on her victim's chest until he suffocates. To avoid Batabat, one must bite their thumb or wiggle their toes. In this way, the person will wake up from the nightmare induced by the Batabat. Number 6. Manananggal. The Manananggal, self-segmenter, is a Filipino aswang, evil spirit, that separates its torso from its lower half and then takes flight at night to eat the babies. This creature's name was derived from the Filipino word tanggal, which means to separate due to this being's ability to separate from its lower body. To feed, it chooses an isolated spot where it will leave its lower torso while hunting at night. When detached from his lower torso, he gains the ability to fly. Then he leaves in search of houses where pregnant women reside. Choosing a suitable victim, Manananggal lands on the house and inserts his tongue through the ceiling. The tongue is long, hollow, and extremely flexible. He uses it to pierce the sleeping woman's uterus and suck out the fetus. On other occasions, he seduces men with his beauty and lures them to a private place before eating them alive. The inside is usually eaten, such as the heart, stomach, or liver. Sunlight is deadly to Manananggal when he is in his monstrous form. If its two halves are still separated by dawn, it will be destroyed. According to legend, in order to destroy Manananggal, one must search for the lower torso that it leaves behind during its nocturnal hunts. Salt, ash, and/or garlic must then be placed on top of the exposed meat, preventing the monster from combining again and leaving it vulnerable to sunlight. Small containers of salt, ash, and uncooked rice and the smell of burning rubber are said to deter Manananggal from approaching the house. Number 1. Kobold. Kobolds are mischievous household spirits from German folklore who often help with household chores and offer valuable services, but can also be mischievous by hiding household and agricultural tools. They are temperamental and get angry when they don't get enough food. Also, sometimes they like to sing to children. In Germanic mythology, kobolds are considered goblins that have survived to this day in German folklore. Although they are usually invisible, they can take the form of animals, fire, or even people. The most common representation shows them as small human figures the size of children. Depending on their environment, kobolds may dress like peasants in human homes, have an unpleasant hunchbacked appearance in mines or smoke pipes, and wear sailor clothes on ships. Behaviorally, kobolds are ambivalent house spirits. Although they can perform household chores, they can also play pranks if they are insulted or neglected. There are different variations of kobolds in legends. Some are known by local names, such as Galgenmann Lion in southern Germany and Heinzelmannchen in Cologne. Other types of kobolds frequent underground places, such as mines, while the Klabautermann lives on ships and helps sailors. Number 2. Pixie. Pixies are known to be magical beings. They are believed to have supernatural powers and abilities, such as the ability to fly, control nature, or cast enchanting spells. Pixies are usually depicted as small beings, usually the size of a child, with a human-like appearance. They are often described as having transparent wings, allowing them to fly, and are associated with ethereal beauty. Pixies are known for their playful and mischievous nature. They love to make mischief and play pranks on humans and other beings. Sometimes they tend to hide things or move objects around just for fun. These creatures are intimately connected to nature. They are said to inhabit forests, meadows, and gardens, and are especially attracted to places with an abundance of flora and fauna. Despite their mischievous behavior, it is believed that pixies can also be protectors of nature. Some legends say that they watch over the preservation of the forests and punish those who damage the environment. Although they can sometimes cause problems or play tricks, they can also help those who show respect and care towards nature. Pixies are recurring characters in fairy tales, fantasy literature, and movies. They are often portrayed as charming and mysterious beings who bring magic and joy to stories. Number 3. Changeling. A changeling is a legendary creature present in various folklore traditions, especially in Celtic and Scandinavian cultures. A changeling is believed to be a supernatural being that is left in the place of a human baby, while the human baby is taken to the fairy world. The belief in changelings arises from the ancient idea that fairies or fairy beings had a particular interest in human babies and could steal or change them. This belief was used to explain strange behaviors or illnesses in children. According to legends, they may have distinctive characteristics that differentiate them from human babies. They are said to be pale, sickly, deformed, or abnormally small. They are also believed to have an insatiable appetite and unusually intense gaze. It is said that fairies or fairy beings change human babies for different reasons. Some legends maintain that they do this to raise human babies in the fairy world, while others mention that they use them as surrogates to satisfy their needs or for revenge. People believed there were ways to detect and protect themselves from changelings. These measures included placing iron objects around the baby, such as scissors or nails, as fairy beings were believed to fear iron. Another form of protection was to try to get the changeling to reveal her true nature through tests, such as placing them near a bonfire. Scissors, nails, and put the baby near the bonfire to make popcorn. Parents of the Year Award. Number 4. Fairy. The fairy is a mythical being from folklore and romance that generally has magical powers and inhabits the earth in close relationship with humans. Fairies have taken a wide variety of forms within European folklore and literature. Some fairies were beautiful and elegant, others were horrible to look at. In modern times, the term fairy is most commonly used to describe beautiful, feminine-looking fairies who tend to have butterfly wings. Nothing like what they were before the arrival of Disney. Fairies are known for their magical powers. They are believed to be able to fly, cast spells, control nature, shapeshift, and possess healing abilities. They are also said to have deep knowledge of ancient wisdom and can bestow blessings or curses on humans. Fairies are intimately connected to nature. They are associated with forests, meadows, lakes, and other natural places. They are said to protect flora and fauna, and are sometimes held responsible for caring for and maintaining balance in ecosystems. Fairies of the past were feared as dangerous and powerful beings who were sometimes friendly to humans, but could also be cruel or mischievous. As we saw before, they often take the children, leaving changing substitutes, and they also take the adults to fairyland. Fairies are said to inhabit their own fairy realms, which may be invisible or exist on a different plane than humans. These kingdoms are often found in hidden locations, such as hills, grottos, or enchanted islands. People transported to the fairy realms cannot return if they eat or drink there. Number 5. Gnome. Once upon a time, when mist and darkness fell over medieval Europe, when the cathedral walls towered high and the forests seemed to be the end of the known world, there existed magical creatures whose existence men feared and respected alike. Among them were the gnomes, small and elusive beings who hid in the depths of the earth, in underground caves, far from the eyes of humans. Gnomes were creatures of small stature, no taller than an apple placed on a pedestal. Their bodies, although tiny, were well-formed, robust and resistant, endowed with superhuman strength for their size. They had thick, hardened skins, like the bark of an old oak, and thick beards that flowed like a river of silver or copper from their faces. Dressed in earth-colored and moss-green clothing, they seemed to be part of the same natural environment. Their bright eyes, sharp and cunning, could see into the deepest darkness of their underground homes. Gnomes were known for their wisdom, their love of riddles, and their ability to work with precious minerals and magical stones. At that time, gnomes were seen as benevolent beings, guardians of the earth and the treasures it hid. It was often believed that they had the knowledge and ability to manipulate the elements of earth, stone, and precious metals, and that they could grant blessings or curses to those who meddled in their affairs. There were stories of gnomes helping lost villagers find their way back home, or sharing their wisdom and advice with those respectful enough to listen. But there were also warnings. Those who attempted to steal the gnomes' treasures or disturb their peace could face their wrath, finding themselves lost in darkness or cursed with endless bad luck. Although they were beings that were rarely seen, their presence was a constant, a reminder that there was more to the world than our eyes could see. In some stories, gnomes were considered mischievous, sometimes even evil creatures. They may have been seen as stubborn and jealous guardians of the earth's treasures, willing to cause harm to those who threatened or disturbed them. Some stories tell of gnomes setting traps for reckless humans who venture too close to their domain, causing misfortune or even death. It is also said that they were masters in the art of illusion, capable of confusing travelers until they got lost or making the greedy find false treasures. If you have been wanting more mythology, here I leave you 2 other videos. Number 6. Brownie. In the shadows of ancient Europe, where the whisper of the wind told tales of mystical beings and the old forests were home to countless secrets, there were creatures of legends that marked the lives of the men and women of that time. Among them dwelt one of a peculiar and peaceful nature, the brownie. Brownies were tiny creatures, no taller than a tankard, but of a very noble nature. They had sturdy, strong, hair-covered bodies, with bright, shrewd eyes. They often wore rags or very simple clothes, their humble appearance concealing their extraordinary nature. They were considered to be benevolent and homely beings, living in human homes, in the barn, in the attic, or even in an unused corner of the house. They didn't ask for much, just a warm corner to sleep in, and in return, they performed household chores around the home when everyone was asleep. Whispers of old ladies in the crackling fireplace told stories of how the brownies fixed shoes, swept floors, tidied tools, and performed small night jobs. They were shy and avoided being seen, but those lucky enough to catch a glimpse of them told of their sweet and peaceful appearance. But in spite of their kindness, the brownies also possessed a particular character. They did not tolerate disrespect or ingratitude. If a household did not take care of their space or disregarded their efforts, they could turn into boggarts, mischievous and sometimes vengeful versions of themselves, causing disorder and unrest. To keep a brownie happy, families used to leave a bowl of milk or cream or a piece of bread as an offering overnight. It was not a payment, as it was said that brownies did not like to feel employed, but rather a gesture of thanks. Thus, in the silent night of medieval Europe, the brownies worked in secret, helping in the daily life of the families that took them in. Their existence was a mixture of myth and reality, a piece of the magic that was hidden in the world, and that the men and women of the time respected and valued. Number 7. Boggart. In the ancient forests of English mythology, there exists a magical and enigmatic creature known as the boggart. This being, who has captivated the imagination of generations, embodies the duality of good and evil, loyalty and betrayal, in a being of surprising metamorphosis. The boggart, in its original form, is a brownie, a friendly and helpful creature that inhabits homes and farms. The brownie is known for its willingness to help with household and farm chores. However, there is a dark secret at the heart of the brownie. When he feels betrayed or neglected by those he serves, he undergoes a grim transformation and becomes a boggart. This metamorphosis completely alters his friendly and peaceful nature, turning him into a mischievous and malicious creature. The boggart is the dark reverse of the brownie, a being that delights in sowing chaos and terror in the homes he once protected. His appearance becomes distorted. His friendly smile turns into a malevolent grimace, and his eyes glow with a diabolical intensity. Now, instead of helping, the boggart plays tricks and scares the residents, hiding objects, making inexplicable noises, and creating an atmosphere of tension and fear. The transformation from brownie to boggart is a powerful reminder of the dangers of betrayal and ingratitude. It teaches us that even the friendliest and most helpful creatures can change when they are hurt and scorned. This duality shows the fragility of relationships and urges us to value and respect those who support and help us. The boggart shows us that we all have the capacity to change, for better or worse. Number 8. Dwarves. In the vast, deep subterranean realms of mythology, where darkness and stone intertwine, lies a race of legendary beings known as the dwarves. These mysterious creatures, with their robust appearance and love of forging and mining, have captured the imagination of generations with their intricate culture and unparalleled craftsmanship skills. Dwarves are known for their small stature, but their spirit and determination are gigantic. With thick beards reaching to the ground and eyes glowing like fire, the dwarves toil at their work deep beneath the earth, carving precious stones and forging weapons and artifacts with unmatched skill. His skill in metalworking is legendary, and his creations are coveted throughout the kingdoms. Despite their reputation as skilled craftsmen, dwarves are famous for their love of gold and riches. Their passions are said to lie in the vast chambers filled with treasures they have accumulated over the centuries. Dwarves are known for their ferocity and tenacity in protecting their wealth, and any intruder who dares to challenge them will face their relentless fury. But beyond their fame for their forging skill and love of gold, dwarves are also keepers of ancient knowledge and secrets. They are possessors of ancestral wisdom that is transmitted from generation to generation, and their stories and myths are intertwined with the history of the world itself. Dwarves are said to be experts in earth magic and can communicate with rocks and minerals, gaining wisdom and power from the very earth around them. Dwarves also have a deep connection to the mountains, which they consider their sacred homes. They are said to have built impressive underground cities, filled with labyrinthine passageways and delicately sculpted halls. These cities, hidden from mortal eyes, are a testament to the ingenuity and skill of the dwarves. Despite their reserved and sometimes rude nature, dwarves are loyal and supportive beings among themselves. They form a united and cohesive society, where honor and one's word are of utmost importance. They are brave warriors and formidable fighters when challenged, but they are also loyal friends and trusted allies when treated with respect and gratitude. Number 9. Leprechaun. In the green hills of ancient Irish Gaelic mythology lies a fascinating mythical figure, the leprechaun. This tiny being, dressed in extravagant clothing and a top hat, has captured the imagination of generations with his mischievous personality and his association with wealth and hidden treasures. The leprechaun, with his peculiar appearance and mischievous smile, is known for his skill in goldsmithing and shoemaking. They are said to be accomplished artisans, capable of creating jewelry and precious objects with unmatched skill. Their reputation as guardians of treasure has been passed down from generation to generation, and many have searched for their hidden fortune in vain. Despite their playful appearance, leprechauns are cunning and elusive beings. They are known for their ability to elude those pursuing them, running faster than the wind and disappearing in the blink of an eye. Their elusiveness is legendary and has thwarted countless fortune hunters who have attempted to trap them in order to reveal the location of their hidden treasures. It is believed that each leprechaun has a personal treasure, wealth accumulated over centuries and hidden in some secret corner. Some say they are pots full of gold coins, while others say they are chests full of sparkling gems and jewels. However, only those with enough cunning and luck can discover the location of these elusive treasures. Although leprechauns are known for their playful personality and love of mischief, they are also beings capable of granting favors and granting wishes. If treated with respect and courtesy, they can help those who encounter them, providing wise counsel and granting wishes with their ancient magic. However, their help always comes at a price, and fair compensation is often required for them to agree to grant mortal wishes. The leprechaun is an iconic figure from Irish Gaelic mythology, a being who embodies the duality between mischief and generosity, fortune and illusion. Its festive and enigmatic image has left a lasting mark on Irish culture and folklore, reminding us that fortune can be elusive and that true wealth can lie beyond the material. So if you ever venture into the fields and forests of Ireland and hear a distant echo of laughter and playful melodies, keep your eyes peeled and your spirit curious. Maybe, if you're lucky enough and determined enough, you can come face to face with a leprechaun and discover the secrets of his hidden treasure.